We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Hi, Mo. I just got to say, as a parent this evening, I kept reflecting on my daughters getting older, just as a small little anecdote before we start the meeting. And I have to admit, and I know I have Chief of Police, Mr. Kenny here, is that my daughter started asking if she could sit on the front. And without me thinking about it, a couple of months ago, I said, yeah, you could sit in the front. Then I said, oh my God, I think I'm breaking the law. So I went on Google. I Googled how old do you have to be to sit in the front. Mind you, she's 9 years old. So I checked in Google and it says you have to be 8 or meet a certain weight. So I was just like, whew, I passed that test. She weighs enough. She's tall, and so I know she weighs enough. But I have to say, it just dawned on me the next day, oh my gosh, I still consider her a little baby. And I know people in this audience consider me a little baby, so it just adds just more to reflect upon tonight. With that said, I'm going to start our meeting this evening. It is Ojai City Council and Ojai Redevelopment Agency, successor agency, regular meeting, 7 p.m., Tuesday, October 27, 2015. Could I have roll call?
Councilmember Clapp. Present. Councilmember Wyrick.
Present.
Councilmember Haney.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz.
Here.
And Mayor Laura.
Here. Could Councilmember Wyrick lead us on Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we're going to start with the presentation. Ojai Valley Green Coalition and E.J. Harrison, Deborah Pendry, and Nan Drake.
Thank you, Mayor Laura, council members. Just wanted to reflect for a minute, and as many of you know, in 2006, a small group of folks got together and called themselves the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. And then in September of 2007, they called the community together to join them in the work that they felt that we needed to do here in the community. And it was that meeting that I first went to and learned about the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. And at the time, they had these action committees that you could sign up for. And one of them was called Waste Management, which was a no-brainer for me, because I come from a proud family of trash pickers and dumpster divers, and it was just a natural for me. But when I left that meeting, I thought about the word management. What does waste management mean? And I went home and immediately did a search on the internet. And I have to tell you, the very first website I went to said, the first thing we have to do in waste management is to stop calling it waste. It's a resource management issue. I've been doing this work 8 years, and that still to this day is the hugest paradigm shift I ever had. You can't take me anywhere. I'm getting choked up about trash, but it was just huge for me to start thinking about waste as a resource. So when the city was negotiating its contract with E.J. Harrison and Sons a few months ago, I got wind that 2015 was the Harrison's 50th year of service in the Ojai Valley, which seemed a great opportunity to do some education and promotion and have E.J. Harrison sponsor it. But more importantly, acknowledge how much the Harrison Industries family of companies, E.J. Harrison and Sons, Agromin, and Gold Coast Recycling and Transfer Station do for our community in the way of donating product and services for all kinds of gatherings. The coalition benefits personally every year with our annual e-waste collection event in January and our annual Ojai Creek Cleanup Day in September. So what we've done is tie Harrison into our annual Ojai Film Festival, film screening, panel discussion, and mini expo. With the film we'll be showing is called Racing to Zero in Pursuit of Zero Waste. The event takes place Sunday, November 8th, and all of the information can be found on the coalition website, ohiValleyGreenCoalition.org. Then we've coordinated 2 tours to the Harrison Recycling Facility, Monday, November 9th, and Thursday, November 12th. It's a sight to behold, and I encourage folks to join us if they can. Coalition members and Ojai City residents are $5, and all other guests are $10, but space is very limited, so again, you can register at OjaiValleyGreenCoalition.org. So thank you, Mayor Severo, for saying yes to a presentation from E.J. Harrison and Sons. And first, we're going to hear from Jim Harrison, one of E.J.'s sons. He would like to reflect a little with you, and then Nan Drake, who is their Government Affairs and Public Relations Director, will come up and do the formal presentation. Thank you.
I'm very happy to be here. 1965 is when we started. I was a lot younger then, thinner too. Had a little more hair. And today, just my 2 brothers and I, we own the company. I want to tell you a little bit about 1965. 1965, we had steel barrels with wheels, twice a week service. The whole city was served residentially twice a week. No recycling. We had no diesel trucks, very few trucks with air brakes, no automatic transmissions. Trucks were very loud. We could get in the landfills 24 hours a day in them days, so there's been a lot of change. I think today it's totally changed. You know how it is today. We're very excited about the future. We love being here in Ojai. It's a wonderful place, wonderful people. Town's really changed very little. I was the original driver. I drove for about 1 solid year. And it was a lot of fun, and met a lot of nice people, and we're really happy to be here. So, started in October 1965. I was really lucky that I was able to start here and enjoyed being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. And I just want to say that dumpster diving is illegal. We have had a very long history of working together, 50 years. And I'm here to tell you that the newest and brightest thing that I'm going to talk to you about is that you're in compliance with AB 939. That's still the law in California, and it's only 50%. And you're at 64. But you know what that means. Sacramento is always thinking. And so I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the future and long-range plans. And so we are working on our long-range plans and all of the new requirements set out by the state of California dealing with greenhouse gas emissions. And that's AB 32. The first requirements of AB 1826, which is the new food waste recycling bill, believe it or not, come to fruition April 2016. We have already done an audit of your city. The very first requirement is that you have to have 8 cubic yards or more of organic waste. And there are some, but they're not a lot. And we haven't really done the reach out yet, but we're working on it. So we're lining up to do that. AB 341 was the new recycling law. And as you know, you're in total compliance with that. Same thing, except it went out to businesses, and they had to have 8 cubic yards or more of trash. And if they did, they had to have recycling. And fortunately, every city that we have done in the past already had this law. There were a few people who did not want to recycle, and there's not much you can do, well, there wasn't before this law. And then the cities came in and they helped us, your department helped us. We went out, called on people, and they went, oh, we didn't know it was the law. We said, well, now it is. So it made it a lot easier.
Nan, remember to tell me when to go next.
Oh, I haven't done the slides
Okay.
yet. I'm just talking extemporaneous. I'm sorry, I guess I should get really moving. Anyway, Gold Coast Recycling, this November is going to be celebrating its 25th anniversary. Many of you know I was on the waste board, in the early days of recycling in California. And I got to vote on the permit for Gold Coast, so that's really great. So we are moving forward, adding more and more things that can be recycled. The newest thing is cartons. As you also know, we had built the first LNG station in the county. Took us 3 years, and we almost ran out of permit time. But luckily, the CEO of the county understood and gave us 3 more months, and we got it done. So right now, we are in the process of adding CNG lines to take care of our new CNG trucks. So we now have a diesel station, clean diesel, LNG and CNG station at our truck yard. And many of you know, 1826 is that organic law I mentioned earlier, and it does have a face here in Ojai. Their hospital does it. A couple of your restaurants are already recycling food waste. It's not enough. We have to do more. But understand that we have some permitting problems. We do not have an extended permit at our current facility, and we are in the permitting process to build a fabulous environmental park on the Limonera Ranch in the Santa Clara Valley. But those things haven't happened yet. So we are moving along, and I just want to tell you that. So now, Deborah, we can go to the very first slide. Thank you. This is just a little bit about the history, and you all know that. 1932, the Great Depression, that's when the Harrisons started, and their truck was called Chop Suey. Uh-oh. You got it? The second slide? Here we are. Thank you. Myra was a young bride at 17, and she was the bookkeeper, and EJ went out and got the business. Took him a long time to build the business. And unfortunately, we were looking forward to celebrating Myra's 100th birthday, but she didn't do it. She left us in 2014 at 99, but we think of her a lot. The company is still based on a lot of what EJ and Myra knew was important, and that's being community involved and giving good service. Ralph's now president of the company. Jim is one of the vice presidents, along with his son Myron. And Harrison Industries serves 90,000 people now. A lot of customers. We're in Ventura and Thousand Oaks and Camarillo and Ojai and Fillmore and Carpinteria, the county of Ventura, Limonera, Naval Base, Ventura County, California State Beaches, and the Channel Islands Beach Community Services. A lot has changed since '32, but we pretty much operate with the same basics. What's driving the challenge? I already mentioned it. And I think you know, we have accomplished AB 939. We're working toward AB 32. That's going to be a real tough one because it's all about emission standards. So it's just not about us, it's about methane. And that means across the board, everybody driving your car, everything that creates it is going to be looked at, and we have to go back to 1990 levels to meet that AB 32. We're working on it, again, with food waste. That's kind of our last gasp. And then I mentioned the recycling law, which increased the requirement as a state goal to be 75%. That is not your requirement as a city. It is a state goal, which we all want to get to zero waste, right? Okay, the next slide. Well, that went ahead, but I'm not going to talk about the LNG station. Let's go back. There, we got it. Okay. Again, I don't want to keep harping on 1826, but it does have the deadlines. It is a serious law. It goes from 8 cubic yards to 4 cubic yards. If we don't get it done, it's going to go to 2 cubic yards. So I asked Jim, I said, what is 2 cubic yards on the way over here? And he says, well, it's probably maybe 3 trash barrels. So, you know, we really want to make sure that we meet that that deadline and that requirement before we have to do that. And AB 1594 is a scary one because alternative daily cover is now used every day in landfills, but not in Ventura County because we were too smart. We never started with it. We do a little bit of it. Ventura Regional Sanitation uses our green waste, but they use it for slope cover. So it's going to come down the pike, and what's going to happen, LA is panicked. They have no place to take their green waste because they have been using it as daily cover for years. So if you really look at what does it really mean, it means we need 200 more compost facilities in California in order to put the green waste in the right spot. Laura is another bill that we understand is coming our way, and it's basically an air board bill. And it's all tied to AB 32, and it's all about methane and it's all about emissions. And as you know, the Harrisons are on the climate registry. We have taken the time to make sure that we are looking at ourselves and we are measuring what we do. We know we have a lot of trucks, 120 of them. We know they go everywhere. So we want to really measure, and right now we are minus emissions because of the recycling that we do. I'm going to skip the facts about the LNG and the CNG. You all know that those are the fuels of the future until we get to little fuel cells or whatever is going to be in the next 20 years. I don't think I'll be standing up talking about it, but I'm sure it's coming. Anyway, the next slide is kind of a cool one because this is when we cut the ribbon on the LNG station. If you look to your far left, you'll see Joe DeVito. He was there, and I want to mention that. So our community involvement, economic development is a very important part of our business because we understand that what makes the world go round is helping other businesses become successful. So we belong to just about every economic development organization. I see many of you at EDCVC or Visita. We belong to all of the chambers, and we really believe that it's important that we do. And then for donations and sponsorships, which is the next slide, you know that we're major supporters of the Ojai Music Festival. When you walk in, the entryway is the Ojai pathway, the E.J. Harrison pathway for the Libby Bowl project. And we support the Ojai Valley Green Coalition, all of your wine festivals that Rotary puts on, the Ojai Chamber, Earth Day, Ojai Tennis Tournament. I called them this last time, though, and I said, I don't see our name on anything, and so now we're big at the tennis tournament. And one of the things that's very near and dear to Jim's heart is the Los Padres Watch. And let me tell you, when they go up and they clean the glass off the mountains, it is really hard to get our trash trucks and our bins up there, but we do it because we know it's important to keep the wilderness clean. And of course, we support your schools. And what's next? We hope we can call it zero waste. That's our plan. Zero waste really means 10%. We're never going to get it all. But we believe in partnerships, and we know that working with you is where we're going to get there. Working with your staff, with Greg Grant, it's just very, very important. And so I talked about food waste. There's some pictures of some of your establishments. The Ojai Valley School is on the program. If we had more capacity, we could do more. And again, I hate to refer back to the county, but they control the permits, and we just have not been able to go forward. State of California has been great to us. We're pretty sure they're going to let us have a third pilot. And this pilot is going to be geared, we have to have a new direction every time. And as you know, what we do is we do an aerobic, aerated static pile, which we cover the food waste, and it is monitored, and all the air is pulled out, and we can tell the temperatures, and it goes quicker. We have an aerobic digester, but it's not permitted, so it's been there 3 years, and we don't know what it does because we haven't been able to plug it in. So, anyway, we're moving, we're grooving, we're working hard, and we really appreciate you. And the last page is about our 25th anniversary and all the things that are now recyclable. And I think if people really look at how they handle their homes and their businesses, they'll find out their recycle barrel is very full, and their trash should be almost empty. Again, thank you very much. We so appreciate your giving us this opportunity to come and talk to you and to your audience out there. Hopefully, they'll remember one thing. If you put it in the right barrel or bin, it will get recycled. If you put a recyclable in a trash can, it's going to go to the landfill. We do not have the capacity at Gold Coast to look at all of the trash. We operate as a transfer station, which means we dump it on the floor. We look for contaminants, and any aluminum can that's hiding under something ends up going to the landfill. Thank you.
Any questions from council? No? Well, I appreciate it, and if anybody gets opportunity to go take a tour, please take advantage. I've taken it myself, and it is a wonderful facility. And our condolence, Jimmy, to you for your mother, Myra, and I'm sure she'll be definitely proud of you and all your brothers.
She's looking down. She's watching.
Great, definitely is.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Clapp?
Yeah, I've taken that tour too, and it is really incredible how that tour goes, that recycling center tour. And also, we have these now.
She told me.
Yes, so.
I'm sorry, if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. We would like you to take a tour, though. Maybe you want
It
to
is
come
great.
with a Green Coalition. It's 45 minutes out of your day, and I think it's well worth it. And
know what I think's
I'll
really
buy
neat?
you a sack lunch.
You know what I think is really neat about it? Is it makes you aware of just how much comes in there every day. It's just unbelievable. And the other thing it made me realize is that just because you recycle doesn't mean you should consume things that have to be recycled, because there's still a huge amount that comes in that doesn't have to come in if you do
Reduce,
something.
reuse.
Right, reduce.
Recycle.
So we're getting the recycle part down, but the reducing part, sometimes I think you think because you're recycling, you've done your job, but it's also about the reduction of those things too.
Well, you know, it's really very important that Sacramento looks at packaging, and they have a very active environmental groups in Sacramento that really keep their eye on packaging. And also, it's the same thing with, you know, when you go get your tires changed on your car, you know, now you have to pay a disposal fee because those tires have to be recycled. And unfortunately, they can't just go to to landfills, or, you know, they have to be handled as special waste. They just need to do that with more items, like batteries. Do you know how many batteries we get thousands of dollars every month? And if the battery industry, if they had to take them back, they would figure out another way to do something with them. So
Thank you,
I'll
Nan.
close with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yes, Mel. You want to come up to the mic so that people...
It's kind of an important question. When it comes to recycling, I took a class probably 15 years ago about it, and at the time, you could not recycle food containers, like pizza stuff that had food particles, or even though it was cardboard. Is that still true?
Clean it before you.
Well,
recycle.
I'm that ain't
And
happening.
someday you'll be able to.
I mean,
you'll be able to recycle the food.
I don't put that in there, but I'm saying, are there classes to teach the kids? Because I think it's important, anything that's soiled, even though it's a recyclable material, it's got grease and food particles and stuff, so
It's
it
okay.
acts,
Just can't be a full can. Make sure you eat some of it.
Thank you, Mo. Anybody else that has questions,
You know what, I just
please
wanna
contact.
I just want to introduce
Yeah?
Lynn Harrison.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did not see him. He's the general manager of E.J. Harrison and Ralph's oldest son.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Wonderful presentation. We're going to be moving on to public comment. Public communication is a time set aside during the meeting for members of the public to address the city's council, successor agency, board on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the council board and will generally be referred to the staff and/or placed on the subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than the emergency items, no action can be taken. Persons wishing to address a council board are requested to fill out a speaker's card prior to the council board reaching this point on the agenda. Comments must be limited to 3 minutes or less. I have a lot of public comment cards and I have none for any of the items on the agenda, so I'm assuming all these are not for the agenda. Is that correct? Yeah? Okay, perfect. We're going to start with Anita Hendricks.
Hello. I'm here because I recently became aware of the issues of the shrubs, and I don't really have the background on it. I'm not very knowledgeable about it, but I know that on one property, the shrubs, which must have been 7 to 9 feet tall on a corner, were cut back to probably 3 feet. It was a dramatic difference. And the tenants, I know I talked with a couple of the tenants, and they were really disturbed by the removal of those. It gave them a sense of privacy, a sense of security, and there was aesthetic value to those shrubs remaining. And apparently they came home one day and they were gone. I talked with someone in town who's kind of knowledgeable, and she said they were taken down, or they decided to enforce the certain regulations about shrub height because they were afraid that children would not be able to see around the shrubs to cross the street. Somebody else told me that most of the accidents that are occurring are on Ojai Avenue, and they're not really in the neighborhoods where these shrubs are. And I don't think it's just an individual matter of, one lady in one of the places said she felt like leaving. She no longer had a sense of privacy. It's just denuded. It looks like something from some, I don't know if you've ever gone to some towns in Southern California where they just are denuded of trees, and it's very stark. And if we have that happening throughout our city, part of the beauty of this city are the trees and the shrubs and the greenery that make it an enchanting place to live. And to go and cut them down, to me, is very disturbing, for the tenants, but as well for people who are visitors and just anyone driving around town. I'm concerned about safety, but maybe we ought to look at such things as maybe some speed bumps, or maybe some of those little reflective mirrors so you can see. But it seems so severe, and apparently there's quite a few of these slated, which is, I just don't want to see Ojai denuded. It was like people felt like they were stripped, like they were naked. And their sense of security was upset. So I'm requesting that you all stop this new enforcement of this and look at other solutions and really look at the intersections that are involved. Apparently someone told me there really haven't been any accidents or hardly any accidents at the intersections where these shrubs are. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And just to give you a quick update, the council direction was to enforce a particular part of that ordinance, which you are correct, on areas where there's safety concerns. And the second part of it is that last meeting, we agreed to bring that issue up to a near agenda. So we're hoping to bring that up fairly soon to address issues and concerns. But we are taking note of of the ones that you brought up. At least I am. Thank you. Cindy Convery?
Hi, Cindy Convery, Ojai. Given that the Building Appeals Board serves at the pleasure of the Ojai City Council, and given that the duties of the Building Appeals Board are specifically spelled out in the Ojai City Government Guidelines, i.e., to hear appeals and to provide advisory comments to the building official, the public wishes to know who on the City Council has instructed the Building Appeals Board to instigate the dozens of letters being sent ordering Ojai residents to cut hedges and other shrubbery on their properties. On April 24th, in this room, many residents of Ojai spoke against hedge cutting enforcement and the fence moratorium. The Ojai City Council responded unanimously by expressing support of the residents. But now, 6 months after your show of unanimous support, the City of Ojai is nevertheless sending out approximately 10 letters per week ordering residents to cut hedges. According to the September 8th video of the Building Appeals Board, as well that the board is now overseeing this hedge cutting enforcement as well as investigating tree removal. And according to our city government's rule of governance, the Ojai City Council is charged with directing the Building Appeals Board activities and assignments. Mayor Laura responded to me that he was unaware of such letters being sent in early August. Councilwoman Clapp confirmed that she did not order the Building Appeals Board to issue these hedge cutting orders. That leaves Councilman Blatz, Councilman Wyrick, and Councilman Haney. Is only one of you allowed to order the Building Appeals Board to perform tasks? Is a quorum required? If none of you ordered the Building Appeals Board to be involved with hedge cutting enforcement, then why are they doing it? Our municipal code states that these types of orders must come from the council. Who ordered this, when, and why? You are now all citing safety as the big issue in hedge cutting, but where are the safety statistics? The majority of residents oppose hedge cutting, and they're turning out in force. The residents that Councilman Haney and Councilman Blast referenced in the Ventura County Star article who are interested in safety are not turning out. Where are they? And if they're so concerned about safety, why aren't they here? Councilman Haney, you stated that it was dangerous for you to back out of your driveway. There's a smallish rose bush there and a tree on your property. Wouldn't it be the best solution to simply back into your driveway? Then you can pull out headfirst into the street for greater safety. That's a simple solution to your specific dilemma. The citizens and residents who are in receipt of the hedge cutting orders have a right to know who's behind this campaign and whether or not a 3-2 majority of the Ojai City Council ordered the Building Appeals Board to implement this enforcement. Why wasn't it on the agenda, and why wasn't the public made aware that you were going to enforce this code? You've all stated that the code has been around for years and years and years. Frankly, the code has been on the books since 2004. Ojai was incorporated in 1921, so for about 90 years, Ojai trotted along just fine without this enforcement. And when has the Building Appeals Board become a code enforcement board along with its other duties?
Great questions. I do want to make note. We do want to clarify some of those issues that Ms. Convery noted because they're not accurate, and in particular with the Buildings Appeals Board. They have no authority. They have not instructed staff to provide those letters. But we will address a lot of those issues that were made. Ms. Convery, please. We're not getting into debate. We're just
I just
gonna
wanted to ask you to watch the video.
Yeah,
their video.
and I have watched the video, and so there's a lot of videos right now online. I would encourage you to watch them all so you could get a sense of really what's going on. But a lot of those comments, in my opinion, are not how everything's developed. So, but we will put out a memo just to make sure that we answer it because they're good questions to ask. I'm not gonna. It's good to recognize that. Enda Wildish? It's spelled EANNEA or AN. I'm apologize for the.
That's okay. It's Iana Wildish.
Iana Wildish.
Right. Thank you. This is the first time I've ever presented, so I'm going to read. My name's Yana Wildish, and I've lived in the Ojai Valley for 17 years and within the city limits for the last 12 years. I joined the Ojai Complete Streets Subcommittee because I had felt for too many years disempowered by the progressive increase in vehicular speeds and concerns for my personal safety while the population of the city continues to decline. Spawned by irrational speeds on my street, and in fact on all the streets on which I've lived in the city, plus having several close calls as a pedestrian, a cyclist, and a motorist, I showed up at the Complete Streets workshops last spring. I've attended each meeting since then and have volunteered my time and energies each month, including at our table at Ojai Day. Ojai auto insurance rates are 20% higher than those of Santa Barbara. Without getting more into the statistics, it's clear that the insurance industry considers living in Ojai risky. The overwhelming safety problem in Ojai is speed, and we are running against the clock toward the next tragedy. We have laws, but like idle threats by ineffectual parents, no one believes those laws will be enforced. It has become part of a culture here. We have only heard one or two persons from among us in the committee say that they wanted no changes in Ojai, that they want to drive through Ojai as fast as possible. But overwhelmingly, I hear remarks from people more concerned about the greater good, including speeds must be reduced. I'm afraid to let my children ride their bikes to school like I used to. Our streets are dangerous. I'm so glad someone is doing something about it. One night I was almost hit by a truck and right in front of a cop. I didn't know there was a Complete Streets plan. Let's do whatever it takes to make this town better. The greater good clearly wants safe bicycle and pedestrian routes and reduced speeds. Having a Complete Streets plan that is well thought out, thorough, is followed up with a strong implementation plan, and is facilitated by the efficiency of a properly managed geographic information system will allow Ojai to garner the available grant money to successfully complete these projects. Complete Streets is not just a state and federal mandate. It is a great opportunity for us to make the improvements that the city needs, not just for safety, but for making Ojai an exceptional place to live and visit. I don't want the citizens of Ojai to feel empowered anymore like I have. I want them to join us the first Wednesday of each month, to personally contribute to what we are achieving at Complete Streets, and to let them feel secure that the city's ability to govern safety issues responsibly, effectively, and attractively. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your service at Complete Street.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Valerie Mintz.
My name is Valerie Mintz, and I've lived in Ojai since the summer of '79. And I'm now living at Whispering Oaks. And recently, the area housing was given a permit to go ahead with the landscaping. And I know that that's not going to change as such, but a lot of us have some concerns about how, in detail, how it's going to take place. Mainly, we've been talking about the decomposed granite that will go down, and I've been trying to educate myself about how this will affect the trees, and I don't have any idea whether when the plans were okayed, just what the details were of that. But I do understand that with trees like oak trees and sycamores, that you have to be very careful. And according to some information I got from UCSD Davis, the granite should only be 80% compacted if it's going to go around an oak tree or sycamore, because they need to have adequate drainage. And that, actually, what was said, it would be better if you had the wood chips going to the drip line of the tree. And also, the larger the tree, that's the older the tree, the larger the tree, the more sensitive they are. So that was one of our concerns. Then on top of that was the binder that goes on that decomposed granite. And it's better for the trees if there isn't a binder on there so that it's looser and so that the water and the air can flow through. Also, I was wondering what the binder is made of, because obviously we have enough toxins in Ojai to last us about at least 10 lifetimes right now. And also the ground cover, which is referred to as a cloth, but is not a cloth, and it's some kind of a plastic or polyurethane covering that will go under the granite. I was told by the Ojai tree people that actually the best covering would be they call it a black ground cloth. So these are some of our concerns, and I would like to know whether or not, when those plans were passed, if those were things that were taken into consideration.
Great.
And the other thing, the last thing I want to say is that we're all very aware, a lot of us, about the toxins that Ojai has been having to deal with, both in the air, in the water, and the earth. And we're aware that we don't have the birds that we used to have, and we don't have the bees.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for your time.
Yes, Councilman Wyrick, there was a
Yeah, I
comment
just-
like this last meeting.
Yes, and I was curious, what's been you obviously know what you're talking about in terms of landscaping, and I was wondering what the response has been from the Housing Authority when you've approached them. They're the managers of the property. When you ask them, give them the same input.
Well, it's hard to give them input, because when they come and talk to us, it's sort of like I think the word would be to placate somebody. And it's like, it doesn't look good now, or you might not think it's going to be okay, but it's going to be fine, you're going to love it. And that's it.
So not a sense of
They don't go
responsiveness.
into detail. And right from the very beginning, I was definitely wanting them to do the wood chips, period, or mulch, because that makes the most sense for the earth.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what I wanted to know.
And I remember last meeting, I think we did give direction or some type of explanation. Is that correct?
What would you, I don't recall, what would you like us to do?
No, I think there were just some comments about following up with the housing
Housing Authority,
Yeah.
to see if they could make some
To
modifications to
inquire
the
of the Housing
plan.
Authority about
Yeah,
these
we'll be glad to do
concerns.
that.
Yeah.
And, requesting them to be responsive to the concerns of the residents.
We'll follow up.
Thank you.
Julie Tumamaya, Stansley.
Good evening. Good evening, council members, staff, community here, and those watching. I just came to thank you so much for the workshop last night. It was well-attended, and I hope that those in their homes watched it and were educated, and those council members who were able to make it. Sorry we missed you last night, Betsy. It is a very important thing. I hope we can do more of this. We need to stay on this. There's still some issues, and I'm glad that people were here to bring those concerns and issues to us. So it means we're not done. We still got a lot to do. There's so much in this valley that people come here for, and I love the presentation from Harrison's. It's like, if we want to know how to conserve and reuse and recycle, think of the native culture. When Europeans came here, they saw a beautiful, gorgeous landscape with absolutely no footprint in it, because that's how the native communities in the early world lived, using everything from one single tree or plant or animal, and nothing was wasted. So I want to thank you again. I understand, hopefully our workshop is online, on the city council website, so that if people want to, they can go online and watch it. And I just wanted to thank you again for everything that we've been doing. I want to thank my group, Don Teeting, Craig Beam, my brother Patrick, the archaeologist John Foster, and then Mark Mumbrook, who was one of the people, and Alistair Coyne. So I think with all of the input that we've been having from the community and our newly formed ad hoc committee, we can move forward with all of this and just help preserve, but also I think the education should continue on the cultural. So I want to look to do more of those cultural educational programs for the community. So again, with gratitude, thank you.
And thank you too, Julie. Pat Tumamaya.
Good evening. I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to speak. As my sister said, I second that emotion. It's been a great opportunity to work with the council, the ad hoc committee, and the community as well. I think last night was very informative on our ancestry and the cultural resources that are here in this valley. And I truly appreciate all of your concerns and all of the good advice and all the input that the community had as well. So from my heart to this valley, I want to thank each and every one of you. Good night. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Pat. Bill Miley.
Good evening, Bill Miley. Family have lived here a long time. And since I like this venue a lot, I'm here for a repeat performance tonight. So we have new people in the audience and we have new people watching. And I want to speak about the update on affordable housing. So I'm representing the Ojai Affordable Housing Committee. And I want to update you and the folks watching on our efforts for creating reasonably priced housing for folks who are of lower income in order to ease the current housing crisis we have. Since the city council, your city council passed the housing element last year, 4 and 5, the year before, which are parts of the city's legal general plan. We've been working on how best to do this consistent with Ojai's character. And as you well know, your council affirmed on July 14th of this year that 2 city-owned parcels, special overlay sites 10 and 11, from the housing element plan are available for affordable housing development. Your council also asked People Self-Help Housing, a nonprofit corporation, for a concept presentation for a rental apartment plan for each of the parcels. Since 1970, when People Self-Help was started, they have an excellent reputation. They have done 45 developments over 45 years. They just opened one in Carpinteria just 2 weeks ago. We know the need is very large, but we also know that we believe there are many qualified people who will be contacted. People Self-Help will provide on-site management, and they also will provide social, educational services to the residents, to the family residents. But in order to pay for this, 100% financing is needed. And to do this, People Self-Help, they apply for California tax credits, which are very competitive. And in order to do that, 2 main criteria have to exist. One have to be met. There must be local fundings, in this case, city funding or land donation. And 2, the land must be very close to downtown where the services are available to the folks that are going to be living there. So, there are only 2 as I said, there are only 2 parcels that meet the criteria. A portion of Site 10, not all of it, and Site 11, which is next to the Public Works yard. So, Importantly, Site 10 carries a grant covenant, a deed covenant, which limits the use of the land to public purposes. And, I'm almost through, affordable housing is the legitimate public purpose as defined by our general plan and by state statutes. So in closing, here's a rhetorical question. Do we want to take advantage of these special overlay sites, 10 and 11, in order to bring affordable housing to our city? Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill. Sherry Stuckey.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I was just wondering whatever happened with the vacation rental workshop. I know that there were some notes that were going to be disseminated. I didn't see them online. I could just not be up to speed. There's an email flying around that stated some decisions had been made and that the number of times per year one could do that would be limited to about 4. And I just wanted to bring it up since next time is the big meeting about it. If we could consider maybe not doing that, limiting it to 4, because a lot of times people are here for, the schools as well as events. So that would probably be a good idea.
Okay, I'm going to have one of the ad hoc committee members answer your question.
But I have
Okay.
40 more seconds, and I want to
Okay,
ask one
great.
more question. Also, a lot of the people that own homes, like second and third homes, they would consider having people come in and rent, on a vacation rental basis for graduations and stuff. So the on-site manager thing is also another question. And the folks asked me to come and ask the question. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you. I'll try to respond, and Councilperson Clapp, if I miss anything, weigh in. First of all, no decisions have been made. The focus group has reported out to the council for a proposal for the council to consider, which will be agendized, I believe, in November?
Yeah.
First meeting in November. It will be on the agenda for public review and discussion. I believe the report of the focus group is posted to the website?
I think it is. I'll double check.
That should have occurred.
It's on the website. Go to the tab that says news. People don't, that's where it is.
Oh, that's where it's hiding, okay. So that is simply the report out of the focus group that Councilman Clapp and I were part of. So that is simply the next step in the process, to present that to the entire council, for it to be debated, public input, move on from there. So I do want to assure you that the only opinions that have been formed were the focus group that has no weight in law until it's considered as part of the ordinance making process, and by the entire council and adequate. And we may well have other structures for public input depending on how the hearing goes when the focus group ideas are introduced to the council in the first meeting in November.
Okay.
Does that answer your question adequately?
It does. It just, the email said also they were voting on it next time, so.
I'd like to say
No,
something
yeah,
about
it will be open. The most that will happen, in my opinion, will be that if the council majority has a direction for drafting an ordinance, that would then come back for more consideration and more hearings.
Okay.
That would be the most that I believe would happen at the first meeting
All right.
in November.
And I have something to say. I appreciate you coming and asking rather than taking what you read on the internet as fact.
I know.
Because just because you read it on the internet doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah,
So I
there's a
really
lot of-
appreciate that you came and asked us directly, and I really urge anybody who has a question, if they read something on the internet, to come directly and ask us, because there's so much that gets out there that is so inaccurate, and it gets everybody upset, and assumptions are made, and it just is it's a really non-productive way. So I really thank you for coming and asking us directly.
You're welcome.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
And I would also encourage you to write the questions down and send it to all of us.
Oh,
So,
okay.
just for
All right,
consideration.
will
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
That goes with anybody for any issue. Mary Dunn?
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, my name is Mary Dunn. I've lived in Ojai for 28 years. I have some questions for the City Council, excluding Betsy Clapp, that all begin with the word why. Why do we as citizens of Ojai have to ride herd on the City Council? Some council members seem to think they can make decisions based on their own personal agendas and not in the best interest of the people of the city. Why are you so hell-bent on radically changing our town? You now have city officials out threatening people with fines and strong-arming them into cutting down hedges and trees on their corner properties for safety, when in fact you have not produced evidence that there exists a safety issue at all. Why is the Building Appeals Board, whom you appointed, even advising you on the issue of hedges? I know at least 3 members of that board failed to get elected to city offices. Are they wielding power through you? Mr. Wyrick, where is the Planning Commission, whom you tried to marginalize with your insulting letter of accusations in all this? Why are you not thinking through this matter of cutting down hedges more carefully? If a child climbs over a 3-foot hedge and runs into the street and is injured, or a vicious dog jumps in or out of a yard and bites someone, who is liable for that? I think you might be. Perhaps you haven't considered the real dangers of enforcing this code. Why, Mr. Wyrick, do you say you would like to put a bike path through the arboleta so that your grandchildren can ride there? First of all, this is not your personal domain. Second, to my knowledge, your grandchildren don't live in Ojai. And third, there is a perfectly fine bike path that runs through the town and all the way to Ventura. Is that not enough for you and your grandchildren? Why are some of you on the city council losing sight of why people are attracted to Ojai? It is an oasis. It is green, it is organic, it is like no other spot in California. It is a refuge from exactly what you were trying to turn it into. That is why people visit and move here. Ojai has always been referred to as Shangri-La. And remember, Shangri-La is a place of beauty, not butchered trees. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to refrain from getting into debate, but again, I encourage, if you have issues or concerns or questions for certain council members, I would rather you contact them and ask them to get a clear answer from them. It's just adds more productivity. It just makes it more personal when there's just so much information, like Councilmember Clapp said, that goes on in the internet that is not factual. So I just want to reiterate that, and we'll go from there.
10-second comment?
Yes.
Just for the record, the council as a whole has referred the review of the entire hedges, walls, et cetera, to the Planning Commission for review. We put that on the work plan.
Alan Thornhill.
City Council and Mayor and our neighbors. I'm Alan Thornhill. We live on North Ventura Street. And I'm here to ask a couple of things of the City Council. And one of them, first of all, is to, if you would consider taking whatever action might be needed to place a moratorium on this order that a lot of us have received regarding the hedges. And one of the reasons is because it's very confusing. And one thing that's confusing about it was the letter that we received stated that we were in violation and that we must comply within 30 days of the date of the letter or face administrative fines and so on and so forth, or cut our hedges down. One thing that made that kind of difficult is that we didn't receive the letter till almost 2 weeks after the date of the letter, which gave us 30 days from that date. And also the letter did not mention that there is a possibility that we could appeal that. And it took us a couple of days to go down to the City Hall and find that out for ourselves. And then the date on the appeal was 15 days after the date of the letter, which was yesterday. Or, I mean, the day before we went to the City Hall. And also, by the way, it costs $500 to appeal. And there's, and that and among many other things, and also just the public input that I've gotten in the last week and a half since this has come into our lives. There are 500 people here in the valley that have said we feel the same way. That's 500, more than 500, who said, we're going to be there with you tonight in spirit. We feel the same way. We need to all sit down and talk about this first before we make this drastic of a change in our valley. And so we haven't talked about it. It's been talked about somewhere by somebody, and we did contact all the council members. My wife and I sent out an email the next day to everybody, and we thank you, Mr. Haney, for getting back to us. We haven't heard back from anybody else. But we would like to have a public dialogue about something that's going to be this big of a change in our valley. And what this lady just said, she hit it right on the head. That's the very thing that people come to this valley for is, wow, look at this. How different is this? How beautiful is this? They want to go out and walk around. It's not a dangerous place. It's only dangerous if you do not abide by stop signs, drive a little more carefully. We need to slow down a little bit instead of implementing things that will allow us to speed up more and be in more of a hurry and not have to be as careful as maybe we should all be. And so I'd like to ask if there would be a possibility that the city council would consider putting a moratorium on it until some of those gray areas are ironed out and we could kind of make sense out of it.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Clapp?
I think that that's a reasonable request under the circumstances. I would like to encourage my fellow council members to direct staff to have a moratorium on the hedge trimming until this issue is resolved.
And I want to turn this to our city attorney, because this is not an agenda item, so we're not allowed to make any decisions or direct.
There is a way to do this. Matt, could you help with this?
It must be an emergency, right?
There's a couple of ways to do it. The trouble is that the emergency exception applies when you have an emergency that's at a higher level of emergency, something akin to a declared disaster, an earthquake, a flood, a fire. Unfortunately, I don't think that this situation would arise to that level, but you could direct staff to bring it back for consideration in the next council meeting.
Or could we just direct staff to cease proceeding with any enforcement actions?
Because that wasn't on the agenda for tonight.
It's not on the agenda.
I don't think the council could take that action tonight.
Okay.
Actually, in response to that, I've told code enforcement not to issue citations. So we're still following up with people to whom we've written letters, but pending the further direction from the city council, we're not actually issuing citations.
I have a question. So right now, Alan got a letter 2 weeks after it was written, and he's already missed the appeals process opportunity. And so he's now in the pike for either having to cut the hedges down or be fined, correct?
He could potentially be fined, but again, I've instructed the code enforcement staff not to issue any citations until the council provides.
Oh, in citations as well as letters, you're saying everything?
As far as letters go, if we receive complaints, we are sending letters out, or that has been my direction, but not citations, because we don't know what the council's ultimately going to do, and it seems reasonable to wait until the council acts before we actually create a financial penalty.
So at this point, you're saying that the instruction to your staff has been to put the brakes on everything?
On citations.
Citations, but not fines, not letters?
Yes, fines, no
Everything.
fines.
Fines follow from the citation.
Right.
So as I understand it, the
What about
direction.
Alan having to cut his shrubs down?
So we'll let it stand until the council has its discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a question to Mr. Summers. It's up to the council to decide what's an emergency. Now, we can take your advice that it should be a flood or a fire or national disaster of some sort. But if we declare that we believe in our community this is an emergency and the council takes action on this, what risk do we have on who's going to have standing to say that this was an illegal act?
If you want to go that route, I have a couple of points of advice. One is act by 4/5 majority.
Okay.
Both in taking first the action to declare an emergency, and second in taking the action on that action item, adding it to the agenda. The risk is twofold. One, someone will make a complaint under the Brown Act that the emergency standard was not met, in which case our response would be, thank you, we'll put on the next agenda and reconfirm everything. All that would be at risk is that 2-week period between now and the next council meeting.
Okay.
In terms of who would have standing, anybody has standing to challenge a Brown Act violation. So any resident could bring that, or anyone really could bring
Anyone
that complaint.
that was unhappy with what we did?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we ought to have a vote on declaring it an emergency.
So do we have to make a motion to that effect? Do we
I
have?
would recommend a motion to find that emergency exists requiring immediate action, or an articulation of that emergency, a second of 4/5 vote, and then take action on that item. And the action on the item needn't be by 4/5 vote. Rather, it's placing it on the agenda that takes a 4/5 vote.
And it's so moved.
Second.
I just have one question.
Discussion. Okay, hold on.
I have one question
Well, yeah,
before we
wait.
go there.
He's made the motion, somebody has a second, and I can say second for, in discussion, and then you can make a discussion.
Great.
So I'm going to second it.
Discussion?
I just wanted, do we have to clarify what the emergency is?
I would recommend doing so.
Is the cutting down hedges, or is the emergency fines? You know, do we have to state that in what we're voting on, or do we just saying we have an emergency in Ojai? I just want to know.
The council needs to state the reason for the emergency that exists that justifies adding this. So perhaps it could be
The emergency that exists is that we may irreparably harm the aesthetics and quality of our community if we continue to enforce this ordinance as written.
No clapping. And so he need another second on that?
I don't think I heard a second
Second
yet.
as amended?
Oh, she.
I seconded it.
Sorry, a
So
second
for
as
points of
amended would
discussion.
work.
So, second.
Any other council member have any questions regarding this motion? Councilmember Wyrick?
General comment. When I ran for office, I said many times, and I'm not going to oppose this for tonight, but I want to make a comment. I made a comment. One of my things I ran on was follow the code or change it. It is not good governance to have code you're not following. I would hope this council, I feel we'll take this action tonight, but the answer is not to suspend enforcement forever. The right way to go is for, I think, us to come together and suggest changes to the code. We can come up with, I think, a better solution to the issue. We can be inventive, we can be imaginative, we're good at it, at that kind of thing here in Ojai. But let's not fall into the habit of just suspending forever. Let's change it and find something that we can follow.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And I think that that's exactly what we've done by having it be an agendized item for, and when do you expect that to come before us?
So tentatively, I've set it for the 24th of November, which is the meeting after next.
22nd. It
Which
would
is-
be the
which
22nd.
is
Oh, I'm
right be-
sorry.
Right before
Yes.
Thanksgiving. So the
And
question is
President.
whether or not we're going to, because we haven't done the vacation schedule, whether or not we're going to cancel the December 2nd meeting in November, the 2nd meeting in December, in which case it would go after the first of the year, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
But it will be as basically as soon as possible, because I agree with Councilman Wyrick that and I think Mr. Blatz would agree that there's no intention of having this drag on forever.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I just have one more comment before we vote. All of us, when we took office, took an oath that we were going to uphold the laws, the United States of America, State of California, and the City of Ojai. This is a law that's on the books in the City of Ojai. Because we took that oath, and that oath means a lot to me, and I'm sure it does to other councilmen, that oath says that we can't prescribe social discourse and advise you to disobey the law. This law has been on the books for 20-some years. So the reason that I think it's essential that we do it this way tonight is because this is a way that we can get this issue kind of tabled for the moment without suggesting in any way, shape, or form that people like Mr. Thornhill have to violate the law in order to get something accomplished. And that's one of the things that I want to make. I want to point out that we as officers of this community just can't, by having taken our oath, advise people to break laws that are on the books. We just can't do it. And when somebody suggests that people should break laws, that's just wrong. If we don't like the law, we get it changed, as Councilman Wyrick said. But I think the only way we can get this to the point where we can get our arms around it is to do what I'm suggesting we do tonight, and that's why I made the motion.
Yeah. And just to mirror those comments, just as an added thing, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Blatt's comments right now. Also, we do put the city in liability by doing this. If there's a complaint out there, and I've had complaints written to me in the past about hedges that they felt being a safety issue, or them having concerns of actually cars running into them. I'm not. So we do have those comments, and I'm not saying that out of 500, there's about 7,000 plus that live in this community. So it's a lot of people that do live in this community, and we are going to put the city liable right now with this decision. Now, I want to state that, I want to make that clear. What Mr. Summer said is that if somebody challenges because it's not in the Brown Act, and there is a liability factor here. So I just want to make sure that you're fully aware, and I'd rather have done it the way Councilmember Wyrick stated, that if we have an issue, let's bring it up to a future agenda. We knew the direction of the city manager was to stop citation, which includes fines, and that's a safer route to go with the city. So that's my state of mind. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the law. There's a lot of things that are in the municipal code book that probably need modification and stuff. The 2004 modification on this fence ordinance was probably just an update from the original ordinance. So I just want to make that clear. I do have an issue with how we're going about this particular item, just because it puts the city in liability. But because this issue's been going on forever before I've been on council, I think it is time for us to make a decision or put this item on agenda to make the certain modifications. With that, I'll take roll call.
Blatt?
Oh, said Blatt. Pardon me. Yes.
Wyrick?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Blatt?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes. Scott Eicher?
Thank you. Hold on. We have to follow it up now with a motion. And Mr. Summers, help me with the wording of the motion. It is that we've now established that there's an emergency item before us, and now we're going to say that we want a moratorium on all enforcement issues with regard, and I don't have the ordinance number.
And I unfortunately don't have it in front of me either. I would recommend that the motion be to suspend all enforcement of the city standards for height of fences, walls, and hedges within front and side setbacks as set forth in the zoning code.
Okay, that'll be my motion. So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Any discussion? Sorry.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Councilperson Latz, would you consider putting a time period for this?
I would be willing to put a time period on when it comes back before us.
Okay.
As an agenda item. So what's the date that we think we may be able to get it back?
So if you have a meeting on the 22nd, which I do recommend that you have, we can put it on the 22nd.
Okay.
24th? Okay.
It's the 24th?
Which is, that's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Yes. Okay. Then I'll amend my motion to include the fact that it's going to come back before us as an agendized item on the 24th of November.
Thank you.
Any other discussions or comments? Not seeing none. Can I have a roll call?
Clapp?
Yes.
Wyrick?
Aye.
Haney?
Yes.
Blatt?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes. Scott Eicher?
Good times.
I'll reserve my comments until the meeting of the 24th of November. Thanks.
John Welborn?
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, thanks for listening to me. I'm a declared hedge hugger, which is one step up from a tree hugger. One of the homes in question that would have violated the 36-inch hedge limit in Ojai is owned by Alan and Denise Thornhill, who reside at 311 North Ventura Street, Ojai, in the downtown area. I happen to drive past the Thornhills' residence numerous times a day. I work at St. John's Regional Medical Center. I drive there to and fro, and I drive right by their home every day. I also go to Jim and Rob's a lot, and I also go to Bicycles of Ojai a lot, so I drive by their home quite frequently. I travel north, south, east, and west. I see it from every direction. Their hedges are lovely. They provide privacy, beauty, and they even dampen the road noise. Their hedges are over 36 inches high, but they do not restrict my vision in any direction and have never restricted my vision of any other vehicles or pedestrians. And when Alan brought this to my attention, I did go to certain areas where this was the idea, and I did look, and I failed to find one intersection where anyone's hedges stopped my vision or would have brought anybody in peril, either vehicles or pedestrians. I believe that I have driven past numerous homes in the downtown area with hedges taller than 36 inches, and in no case that I came across was my vision obstructed. Public safety would not be increased by limiting hedge height. If hedges restrict pedestrians from using the public sidewalk or present a danger of injury, then I could see where they'd need to be trimmed back, and I have seen that in Ojai. Please do not infringe on the homeowner's right to create a home and yard that is advantageous to beauty, privacy, and creativity. Please continue to allow Ojai citizens to maintain their individuality and the uniqueness of their homes. Thank you so much.
I do want to comment that if you guys do have a written statement, again, I encourage you guys to submit them for the November 24th meeting that we have, just to make sure we have it on record. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jerry Dunn.
My name's Jerry Camarillo Dunn, a resident of Ojai, and I want to thank you for your declaring an emergency just now. I think if I were in Alan Thornhill's shoes and suddenly the safety, the comfort, the preciousness of my house was threatened, I'd consider it an emergency, and I'm glad you did too. So that takes care of this part. I do want to say that Mr. Wyrick and I have corresponded about the issue of bike paths through the Arbolada, and in response to my questions, he wrote to me that he was indeed interested in seeing them built there, and he said the roads would not be widened, but that any bike path would go through the right-of-way, which is 5 feet on either side of the existing roadway. And I want to ask that you put this on the agenda, the idea of bike paths through the Arbolada. As you know, if you drive through there, the streetscape is lined with heritage oaks, lines of river rocks, beautiful greenery, hedges, and I'd hate to see those things threatened as we've seen other things threatened by code enforcement over the hedge height issue. So if it's possible to agendize, I'm not sure which verb you all use, that for the next time, I would appreciate it very much. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Wyrick.
Yeah, I think if you read my letter, what I stated was that and I was going to save this for my city council report, that there are people that want bike paths. Our circulation element calls for bike paths. It's a matter of a public choice and a hearing and a public decision about how to use right-of-ways. I believe that's what I stated in the letter.
Yes, and that's why I'd like to see it on the agenda.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
I would encourage first it to go to Complete Streets and have the process come through there for recommendations, because I believe that they're more knowledgeable about the circulation plan. And but if we have the majority council to want to agendize it for a future item, more than happy to.
Mr. Mayor,
I would suggest that there is going to be a draft. We have under contract Nygaard Nelson.
Yes.
They're developing a master plan for pedestrian and bike paths. This all came up in the discussion and due diligence of that. That's going to be coming up for, I think, review by the Planning Commission, probably workshops, et cetera. And that would be the appropriate vehicle, I think.
So I think Mr. Dunn, that's going to be where it's all going to filter through. Are those discussions from the Planning Commission and
Is there a date for that?
I
No,
would-
I do believe the Complete Streets chair is here, maybe? She might want to come up later and speak to that.
I have a speaker card, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Councilmember Clapp?
We do have the neighborhood planning, but also the Complete Streets has been meeting for a long time, and those meetings are not always the best time for everyone. And I don't think we've really heard from them for quite a while. And I'm thinking that maybe we need to come up with some way for them to give a full-blown report to us at a council meeting so that the people can be educated about what it is that they're planning. Because I think we had a ill-fated attempt at traffic calming with the famous bulb outs. And that has kind of prejudiced people against any sort of beautification and modification of streetscapes. And I think if there was a really good presentation brought forth to educate people about what is really being attempted, I think a lot of people would relax and realize that a lot of good can come out of this. And I would also urge people to look at some other communities that have done these kinds of plans and how beautiful they've come out. Carpinteria is one. If you go down to Carpinteria, there's beautiful things they've done that are, I think, along the vein of what is attempting to be done here by the Complete Streets Committee. The other thing is another community called Montrose. It's down by Glendale, and it's off the 210. It's a funny little community I just now became aware of, even though I'm a native Southern Californian. It's called Montrose, and they also have done a downtown modification of the street and how it's configured, and it's beautiful. And I think there's a tendency to be very concerned that it's going to alter the community in a negative way, like the hedge trimming. But I think in reality, if you really understand what's being attempted, it's actually going to make it even a more beautiful community. So I don't know how to go about this, and maybe Kathleen can come up right now rather than waiting for her speaker card. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that would be fine. And I just want to make a comment. This all happened because of the neighborhood planning, and these all these conversations are deriving from that plan. And our attempt to schedule a workshop for the public has not happened due to scheduling conflict. So we will be bringing that up, and I think that would be the appropriate.
There have already
method.
been 2 meetings with the neighborhood planning, public workshops. So be aware that these meetings do occur, and they're posted on the door at City Hall, and they're also online at the city website, and they're also put in the newspaper. So please, we're attempting to reach out to you and let you know when these meetings are occurring, but you need to also take some responsibility in finding out when they are, because we don't have the kind of resources, even though we did send out postcards about the Complete Streets workshops to every address within the city. And that's really an expensive thing for us to do. We are trying to communicate with you when these things are happening, so please get informed about when they're happening, because that's your opportunity to speak out. It's really difficult when all this goes on and the plan is set to go forward, and all of a sudden people are coming forward like this is a brand new idea. In reality, it's not. It's been going on for quite a while. So please be more active about finding out when these things are occurring, because we want your feedback. But it's really disruptive when it comes in at the 11th hour, and so I think that maybe Kathleen should talk right now.
Yes, Kathleen.
Okay.
You moved up
I
to
can
the
make a
front.
couple of comments, and I'm also happy to sit back and wait my turn when my card comes up to do my little report I was going to do. But Betsy brought up a couple items. I'm actually in the process of putting a report together from Complete Streets, and I also wanted to let people know. So Complete Streets is a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. I'm the chair of, actually the vice chair of the Planning Commission, and now I'm the chair of Complete Streets, and I have been since 2011. So we're comprised of several Planning Commission members. We always have a staff member. Greg Grant, our Public Works Director, has been our staff person in the last quite a few years. But the really exciting thing about Complete Streets is it's open to the public. So a lot of the members, our active members, are members of the public. So they're all participating in the process. And we've also made, and Betsy mentioned this, our council member Clapp, that we've really reached out to do public outreach. So last year, and I believe it was in the beginning of December, we had right here at City Hall with Greg Grant 2 public workshops. And it was about doing some street improvements tied in with capital improvements. So now what we're looking at is working with our existing budget and not having to redo things, so collaborating in that manner. And then also in the spring, we had with our consultant, Nelson Nygaard, we had 4 public workshops that started in the afternoon so that we could accommodate people that could come at that time, and then also into the evening, and then we ended it with a final presentation. What they're doing is they're creating a bicycle and pedestrian master plan, which is part of our, and required under our circulation element and our general plan. And right now it's in a draft form. So we're reviewing that at Complete Streets. I don't want to set an exact date, but we ideally would like to have that draft hopefully completed by December. Then it will be released and it would go to Planning Commission and of course back out to the greater public. But we do have members of the public that are sitting on this review process right now. So, and I always, give my Complete Streets report at Planning Commission the first Wednesday of the month, and I always invite the public. So it's here at City Hall in the conference room, 2:30 to 4:30. And if anyone is welcome, or everyone is welcome to come, and we really appreciate it. I don't know if there's anything else I can answer. I could do my report, or like I said, I'm willing to wait my turn and
You could do
come
your
back.
report.
Okay, it's 3 minutes, hopefully, or you can cut me off. But basically why I came tonight and I filled out a speaker's card was I'm once again here as a planning commissioner and the chair of the Complete Streets Subcommittee, and I wanted to thank you for sponsoring us. We had an information table at Ojai for the first time, Ojai Day. And it was very successful. What we did was we actually created a, might have dropped it on my way walking, but we had a questionnaire form, and we asked people questions about what they thought about traffic, safety, any issues in their neighborhood. We had a series of questions. And then we asked people if they wanted to get involved with Complete Streets. So we welcomed people and took their contact information. We had a fair amount of people fill out the forms. I have a little report that I will formalize. It's still just in handwritten form. I took this information off of the sheets. We generally had a really good response. We had a person that said they didn't think we needed to do anything. But predominantly, the comments were people were looking for safety, and they were concerned about speeding in their neighborhoods. And interestingly enough, you brought up the project in Golden West. And we did have a couple people that came up to us and kind of went, oh, bulb outs, that's why that project didn't go through. They started going off about Montgomery Street, and they finished talking, and I said, you know what, I completely agree with you. And they kind of dropped their jaw, and I said, I don't know anyone who thought that was a great project. That's why the city took it out. So I think what's going on is there's some misinformation out there, unfortunately, and people think that that Montgomery Street project is going to get duplicated throughout town. It's not. I also wanted to say, and this is interesting because we had the E.J. Harrison report, they talked about AB 32. Complete Streets actually came out of that because the state did in their mandate was it was all to do with air pollution and air emissions. And so they're trying to reduce vehicle miles traveled, look at alternate transportation. Our U.S. Attorney General about a month ago came out with a huge report about getting people out of their cars, walking again, and back on bikes, because there's an issue not just with air pollution, but with obesity and diabetes, and that's a major issue in our schools. So, back to Ojai Day. So we got those forms, and I'm going to be sending out an email and reaching out to those people that actually did indicate that they were interested in getting involved. In addition, we collaborated with the Ojai Police Department on a project that day and the mob shop. We know that education is huge. I know that there are many bike riders who do not follow the vehicle code. And a lot of people complain about the bike riders, and it's true. invariably today I saw an adult, once again, on the wrong side of the street on the sidewalk in Ojai, going down Ojai Avenue. So we are not denying that that's not an issue. Also, a lot of cars do not know that last September, there was the 3-foot rule that came in, and we actually met with the police department. Sergeant Kenny knows that we did this, and we're working, collaboratively on the police knowing about this and working with people and letting people know. So initially, there's an education period, but at some point, it has to be enforced. So we had this information there. We also had tips for bicycle safety. These were actually produced by VC Cool, and I'm just doing this so everybody can see, but anyway, I've got extra if anybody wants them, not tonight, but if they come to the meeting. And with a county-wide movement to get complete streets commissions on all the cities in the county. We happen to be the only one, we have a subcommittee, but we're the only ones, so they defer a lot to us. The other thing at the mob shop in the police department put on a bike rodeo, so there was that's basically a bicycle safety for children. We also got funding money from Rotary and State Farm Insurance, so we had free bicycle helmets for students. And Sergeant Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, are we doing the ice cream tickets?
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to tell them what we're doing?
It's basically a reward program, so when we find people doing the right thing, kids doing the right thing, we'll stop them, pull them over, and give them a ticket, which is basically a free ice cream or slushie or something of that nature.
Yeah. So
Adults should be included in that.
Yeah.
That's for adults also?
Yeah, so education is huge, and like I said, we did at Ojai Day have people come up to us thinking that in the Arbolada that we were going to be widening the roads, putting in sidewalks and bike lanes on all the streets in the Arbolada. We are looking at, this is just looking at, and this is in our master plan, what we call a crosstown bike road, and it's based on safe routes to school. It's a route that would start on Grand, go through the backside of downtown, it goes through the Arbolada, just through a couple streets, but close to the schools. What we're trying to do, because it's a safe route to school, is link our public schools, not only the elementary schools, and we do have elementary schools that are outside the city limit, but all those kids, when they go to junior high and high school, come into the city on bikes. Not only that, anyone else could use the routes. I also want to say that we are very, very concerned about maintaining the character of Ojai. I'm also a tree hugger, so keeping our trees, not changing the character of Ojai, we completely get that, and that's why we have the public coming and joining in with us. We really want to maintain that. And one other thing that I wanted to share was on that day, thanks to Mayor Laura, he alerted me to a program that SCAG just came out with. That's the Southern California Association of Governments. They actually represent 6 counties in Southern California. Ventura County happens to be one of them. And this is a program that they're calling Go Human. They're going to be putting up billboards and all kinds of information throughout the 6 counties. And basically what it is, it's information about getting out of your cars, because they're having to deal with AB 32, amongst other things, and health issues. So they have a whole bike program about Let's Bike. They have a Let's Walk program. They also have Drive with Care, so there's all these pointers. And they sent us some literature, and this is something that we could actually put on our city website. It's all web-linked, and some good information about signage, and a lot of great tips. And I'm sure I'm probably missing something, but there's one last thing that I really wanted to announce. On the week of November 2nd through November 6th coming up, we are sponsoring a Safe Routes to School, Bike to School Week. And we're going to be doing it on that crosstown Safe Routes to School route that I just mentioned, the Grand, through the backside of Ojai into the Arbolada. So basically we'd filter to, like, say, Matilaha and OVS. But kids going to other schools, including the private schools, could use it. For instance, we had a parent that lives on, I think it was Drowner Daily, I've got her card here. She said that every day she takes 10 kids and rides through Ojai to Oak Grove. And I know that's out of the city limit, but they happen to live in the city, all these kids, and the parents ride through town. And she said to me, this was at Ojai Day, do you think you could ask the police that if we could have an escort 5 days a week? And she was like really serious. And I said, I don't think I could ask them. I go, I don't think they have the manpower to do that. Other people might start asking too. But if we did have a safe route, we wouldn't have to ask the police to be an escort. So it's just another good reason to do it. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. And I think that's the end of my report.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And they do have a meeting once a month?
Yes, November 4th will be our next one here at City Hall in the conference room. If we
Open to
need
the
it, we may have
public.
to move into this room if we have a lot more people.
Great, thank you.
But 2:30 to 4:30.
Alex Smith?
Evening. I just have a quick wildlife issue, and forgive me if I don't know what I'm talking about. But on the 19th, the California Department of Food and Agriculture came through the East End, at least in my neighborhood, and was spraying insecticides. And we have basically a neighborhood buck that lives in that area. It's been in our yard or neighbors' yards. And later that week, I saw it. It was like in the neighbor's yard making grunting noises. And then this past Saturday, I found it dead in our yard. So I handed this out to everyone, and it has a copy of what they were spraying, the insecticides. And I don't know if there's a connection or not, but I just wanted to make it known, and if anyone else came forward, like if they had any other animal deaths around the same time.
And there's actually, it has been coming up. It's I think you said in the East End. So,
Yeah, just off Thatcher.
So it's, it could be, I think it could also be the actual citrus owners that are spraying this too, because they're taking care of their orchards and they're actually spraying sometimes these insecticides. So there could be a combination of things. There's transition to organic to have more information. Patty Pagling, I think she's in the audience if you want to talk to her about it a little bit more. But thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Other than that, then we could just refer you to the agency that's actually spraying in the orchards.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make it known.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Quillisi?
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and staff. Steve Quillisi, West Eucalyptus Street in the city. Because of your special meeting last night on cultural resources, all of you had to be here and could not attend the Ojai Valley Sanitary District Board meetings. So I did, so did Dale Hansen, and she can probably fill you in on all the things that I forgot to note. But there are a few that I think would be of interest to the council because of responsibility for the city, and potentially a few that would apply to the folks out there that are watching on television right now or may in the future. First of all, the sanitary district is willing to spread connection fees, this famous $16,000 that it costs to hook up your home or your second dwelling on your property to the sewer system. They're willing to spread that over multiple years for first units or second units. They discussed and approved two specific homeowners contracts last night. So if people are worried about having to come up with that kind of money all at once, it is possible to work with the district. Second thing that you might discuss offline with your CFO, the sanitary district has allowed $1.8 million reserve against pension liabilities. And I don't know how big their organization is compared to the city, but that 1.8 million assumes a 7.5% ROI on the district's reserves. If I could make 7.5% right now guaranteed, I'd be very happy. If you back off to a 6.5% ROI, then they need a reserve of 3.1 million, not 1.8. And so you could have similar concerns about where the city's reserves are and ROI there and your pension liabilities. Along Kuyama Road, the north side, this is just outside the city limits, they're doing some septic to sewer conversion planning. There are a group of 10 homes there that all are septic right now, and 5 are in favor, 5 are not in favor, although 3 of the latter 5 may change their minds. But the board decided not to do anything until there's a more substantial majority of this group of people that want to do a septic to sewer conversion. They said the money will have to come up in front to do a sewer line extension, whether it's gravity, which is very expensive, or low pressure, which is less so. But that money has to come up front from the homeowners, and they can't do Mello Ruiz, and they can't sell bonds of that size. Finally, the December meeting is moved from the 28th to the 21st of December for those of you that are keeping track. Finally, they did report that they have finished 21,000 feet of lining in sewer pipes. And so they expect almost 4 miles worth. And so they expect there will be less leakage into the system if we have a very heavy rain this winter. And finally, the general manager, Jeff Palmer, is currently talking to groups of realtors about the second unit stuff, about any of the other things that have to do with inspections of private laterals, and he is happy to come talk to any other group that wants to get together and hear from him about the rules. Thank you.
Great, thank you. City might want to ask him to come too. Alex, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your last name. Yeah. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Sheshanoff. My name is Alex Sheshanoff. Thank you.
Cool last name.
So I can't, my name is Alex. I live here in Ojai, and I came here prepared to be really upset about this hedge issue. But listening to what each and every one of you said gave me such confidence and faith in the system. Everything you guys said was totally reasonable, and it made me really proud to live here. So I'm going to not actually speak to a lot of what I had prepared to say, but I do know that a lot of these issues get debated behind the scenes, and so would like to sort of talk about briefly about this hedge ordinance before it comes up on the agenda officially. As you guys know, it's 25 feet from the corner in either direction, and I didn't really appreciate how big 25 feet was, and so I actually just brought this here as a video. This is 25 feet.
I don't know if you could put the video on there, Jeremy, but it's definitely the length of this. It's definitely the length of this chamber.
That is from each corner.
Could you come talk in the mic, because people on
So
home
that's
can't
25
hear you.
feet. The hypotenuse is 35.3 feet. Right. This is a crazy amount of distance, and I would urge you not to have a one-size-fits-all solution to this problem. I was fortunate I was able to have a lot of really constructive conversations with Complete Streets about this, and they said, at our particular corner, it has nothing to do with the hedge. The problem is the stop sign's in the wrong place, right? So echoing what Councilman Wyrick said, let's take this crummy ordinance off the books and have something that is actually enforceable across the board. Selective enforcement, I don't think that's not leadership. It's undemocratic, it's unfair. So let's enforce this in a way that is judicious and even. And I should say too, I love our hedge, like everybody loves their hedge, but I have a 6 and an 8-year-old, and they're learning how to bike. Safety is really important to me too. So let's try to come up with something that is across the board and consistent, and I think that's most of what I wanted to say. But, you guys are rational people, and I have no doubt you'll come up with a good solution that works for everybody while preserving what makes Ojai, Ojai. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Vicky, Carlton, Bright, Bird.
Thank you, Mayor Lar. Before I forget, Councilman Blatz, I live right up the street from you, and I will go home and hug my 7-foot hedge and tell it not to worry for a while. So, anyway, I do have some comments about the Building Appeals Board. What has been on my mind lately is code enforcement, why we're enforcing the codes, what codes we are enforcing, et cetera, et cetera. So, I got the idea to view the September 8th Building Appeals Board meeting, and of course, I was actually pretty shocked at what I saw. We already know the duties and responsibilities. According to the Ojai Municipal Code, the one that I can find, it says 2 reasons to meet: an appeal or the building official requests advisory comments regarding issues related blah, blah, blah. So the BAB is supposed to act in an advisory capacity and only when requested. As you council members know, since its inception in 2013, the board has yet to hear an appeal. What is astonishing is that the BAB is not providing advisory comments on adoption of new codes that I can see. It's writing code. And I don't care how you lawyer it or parse it or whatever. They're talking about what code amendments they would like to write, what it's initiating, and planning code enforcement. Talking about adoption of new codes. This is way beyond the scope of the duties as described in the Ojai Municipal Code. Somebody said that there's been a resolution that expands on their duties. If that's the case, then it needs to be put in the code so that a normal person like me doesn't have to go 68 different places to put together how the city works. So in the event that the Building Appeals Board does hear an appeal, their decision is final. That means that you as the council members have no power over the decision of the board. An appellant who receives an unfavorable outcome can only take the case to court. Now that's troubling to me because it means that the Ojai Building Appeals Board is judge, jury, and executioner. It's a little like putting the fox in charge of henhouse security. They're making the law, enforcing the law, and have final say over any appeals. That's not how our federal government works with checks and balances, and that needs to stop working like that in Ojai, in my opinion. During the meeting, Chairman Bob Daddy instructs council to notice a property owner about graffiti for sale sign, talking about, we want this and we want to see that and we want to see whatever. Later in the meeting, Mr. Summers discusses open code enforcement cases, and he says, I quote, "We're vague at the public setting because we don't want to tip our hand to the property owners. No wonder many residents feel that the city has taken an us versus them stance when it comes to governance. Also, I wonder how that behavior conforms with the Brown Act and in the spirit of transparency. Although Mr. Summers is on retainer for his work for the City Council, Councilmember Clapp confirmed at the last City Council meeting that his work for the BAB is over and above that retainer. So that means to me he's getting paid extra by the city to help the Building Appeals Board do something they have no business doing in the first place. Some have said, as I said, that there may be expanded powers. If that's the case, then you need to write it into the code so it's easy for people to see. What I feel, the way it's working right now, is that there's too much power in the hands of too few unelected officials, and I hate to use this word, but I demand that that be changed. Thank you.
I just want to make a few comments about, and again, it's been brought up many times, and a lot of a board sometimes does look at specific laws, and even though they're looking at everything that has to do, including code enforcement, there's like a Historic Preservation Commission, there's our Planning Commission. You think it's writing law, but it is really advising the council, because the council has the last word in terms of policy implementation. So no commission or board actually has any authority to implement policies. They look at policies. I'm just clarifying.
Can I ask a question then?
Yes.
Because because I don't understand, because I see the meeting goes on for hours, and they're going over line item by line item by line item. That to me, and they're saying how they want it to be written. To me, that is writing code.
There's two ways of looking at it. When we direct an issue to any of our commissions, any of our board, we want them to look at every single detail in order to have educated recommendation to council. If they're just looking through issues that we want them to look at, there's no point in them even advising the council, in my opinion. So there's two ways of looking at things. There's comments made on all these commissions. That's why we have them on video from all our commissions. But I guarantee you that sometimes our commissions make comments that don't particularly pertain to their subject. So if we're going to be scrutinizing one board, then we have to be scrutinizing every other commission, because it's
I wouldn't disagree with that.
It's not fair. So all I'm saying though is, as a policy-making board, the council has the last word. But we do expect our board members and our commissioners to look at every single item, and we do want them to have an open mind. We do want them to talk about ideas. Just because they say ideas or make a comment doesn't mean necessarily that's going to be implemented. It's up to the council to implement policy. And that's anything. We've had our Arts Commission review ordinances, and they've done a really diligent, amazing job at looking at every line item. We had the Parks and Recreation Commission. We've had the Planning Commission. It just goes on and on. So I just want to make those comments. There's no debate, but I just want to invite you that we do want our boards and our commissions to really be detail-oriented. So with that, and that's why we put them on video, because we want them to be transparent. So I appreciate your comments. Michael Shapiro?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Michael Shapiro, Ojai. I think this last speaker, and certainly the hedge comments that were made by public speakers, begs the question that we got into a problem in this city this last year. And that problem has been created by the actions and the behavior and the decision-making policy and of the Building Appeals Board, and the chairman of that board, who's directed the board to do everything that it's done. I say again, as I've said in the past, the chairman of the Building Appeals Board acting as he has, creating this incredible conflict within the community. It's been a huge conflict. Thank God you've acted the way you have tonight. This is a breath of fresh air. But we shouldn't have even had to come to this point where such a motion had to be made. And we wouldn't have if we had sanity at this board. And I think it's time for, once again, you to consider, and all you need is 3 votes to do this, and have the courage to do this. I have no confidence in the chairman of the Building Appeals Board for directing the board to behave and to act as it has. It's time for this person, Mr. Bob Daddy, the chairman, to step down. If he's not willing to step down, he should be asked to resign. He has an apparent and real genuine conflict of interest by serving as the chairman of the Building Appeals Board, while he's also the owner of the only source of daily news, weekly news in our town, the Ojai Valley News, and he also is the owner of the State Farm Insurance Agency, which writes insurance policies for buildings and businesses, some of which may even come before the board. It's time. It's an appearance of a conflict of interest. I think it's more than an appearance. I think it has been a conflict of interest. The paper's editorial policies denied a paid advertisement to be against the direct election of the mayor ballot initiative, which Mr. Daddy sponsored. Mr. Daddy is sponsoring and has vocalized, we've read it in the emails that we presented, a radical change historically for Ojai government. He's already done it once. We have the direct election of the mayor coming up. During an off-year election, he got it through, and he's called now for a charter city, to become a charter city, no longer a general law city, or as he says, a home rule city. It's the same thing. Someone who has that kind of agenda shouldn't have such a vocal position as chairman of a major committee, while he's also the owner of the Ojai Valley News. It's time to step up and have some political courage. I think if you don't, it's going to be an issue if anyone wants to run for a re-election. Not stepping up and making some changes is going to come back to haunt you. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcy Tosher.
Well, I've changed my mind about 30 different times tonight what I was going to talk about, but that's a great segue. I congratulate all of you because I think Friday, front page, you will see that the city council and mayor saved the day with the hedges, and I find it ironic that the emergency was created in the first place because of your direction to start the enforcement process to get the hedges chopped. So it's kind of like setting a house on fire and then putting the fire out and wanting all the kudos for putting the fire out. So I think you guys will be on the front page, number one. Number two, I know what won't be on the front page on Friday from tonight, and that has nothing about the Board of Building Appeals. Nothing will be there on Friday because Bob Daddy controls that, and we know he didn't fare too well tonight from what everyone was talking about. But anyway, I think I can bring something new to talk about tonight, and what I feel is the most important.
Could you just bring a microphone down a little? Yes, so that the people in their homes could hear what
Sure.
you're saying.
What I really like to get a conversation going about and getting some action on, rather than all of these other things that we're talking about, and I think this is our true city emergency. When I watched the Weather Channel last week, when Hurricane Patricia came in, and the meteorologists are saying that is the fiercest hurricane in the Pacific ever recorded, I'm thinking, well, and they point the finger at El Nino, and I'm thinking, then I think we could anticipate sitting here in Ojai, record-breaking El Nino rains. And I'm concerned, I drive up and down Creek Road a lot, and I see all of the fallen oak trees and sycamore trees and debris and all of that, and I know that that whole channel, I live along San Antonio channel, so I know how easily that can get clogged up. You've got bridges that it flows under. I think we need to take a look at what can be done now to prevent that channel from getting clogged up and then redirecting water onto streets, into homes, and all of that. And then I think also the city should develop some kind of ad hoc committee that can look at all of the things that can be done now to prepare for torrential rains. Maybe call in the Army Corps of Engineers, have them look at Matilha Dam. That's a disaster waiting to happen, potentially. That's the biggest safety issue facing Ojai. And I think talking about all of this other stuff is great, but I think, you know, there's a monster coming, and we've got to be prepared for it. We could have neighborhood committees to, you know, we just need chain of command, neighborhood committees, everything in place. I don't know to what extent that's been done. I'm not talking about individuals preparing their own households and their own family and protecting them. I'm talking about the city protecting us through minding the infrastructure and working all of that out. So anyway, I'd love to hear what's being done about that and what you could do.
Yes, I mean, to start off, we are working with the county, we're working with the police department, we're working with the fire department, the county's taking lead. I know there's been several workshops done in the valley to talk about what our emergency preparedness plan is, and you could view it on our website. It has a link on our website that talks about it if you go on the top of the website and click. So there's been actually a lot going on, trying to promote. And if Mr. Clark wants to add anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, of course, our Public Works Department is paying very close attention to all of our drainage courses and drainage facilities. Excuse me. And we're actually installing devices that break up debris as it comes down to the channel into the city and keeps major things from getting into our channel and blocking it. We have an emergency operations plan that's coordinated with all the other agencies, and we drill regularly in the operation of that. So we do take this very seriously, and we have been taking the actions that we can to protect our property and people.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to say also that Ojai has had in place for at least the last 3 or 4 years, the CERT organization and the Ojai OK drill. Ham radio operators are involved in it. There's neighborhood leaders. There's neighborhood groups. I mean, there's all kinds of activity that's been going on, not only for rain, but earthquakes and all that kind of thing. So,
Well,
I'm not sure what else we could
Yeah,
be doing.
I would invite you to look in their website.
I get that. Yeah, thank you. I get that. But I corresponded with a neighbor of mine downstream along Creek Road, and he wanted to remove some dead trees and some tree debris from his barranca. And someone from the county was there, and he said that he wanted to do it, or would they do it, or could he do it? And they said, no, you can't. You're not allowed to remove that tree. And anyway, if you drive up and down Creek Road, take a look. Look over along the barrancas. They need to just get that stuff out of there now.
That's county jurisdiction.
But then you guys need to pressure the county to do something.
Yeah, and there's, I would really recommend if you call the county and talk to that department, because there's, or Supervisor Bennett, and he will give you the answer.
Okay.
Mayor?
Because, yes.
My understanding is that because those are natural drainages, the only thing you can work on is anything that's obstructing the bridges. That's my understanding.
Well, those
They-
trees will eventually.
No, I agree with you, but I think that's probably what you're hearing. And then there's another website, it's readyventuracounty.org/El Nino.
Right.
If you go to that, that's providing a lot of good information
All
right
right.
now as well.
Have you,
Thank you, Chief.
one last thing, just want to make sure it's on your radar somehow, the Matilaha Dam.
That's not the city either.
Well, we're downstream from that, the city.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. Nothing from Matilaha Dam runs through the city.
Okay, so it'd be county.
Yeah. And here's
But- yeah.
another thing real quickly. You could go to Ojai Valley CERT, CERT.org, and that's about it's a triad, is a corporation, the Ojai Valley Triad is a cooperation between Ojai Valley CERT, Ojai Valley Amateur Radio Club, and the Ojai Volunteers of the Ventura Chapter of the American Red Cross. So that is another organization that's involved with emergency preparedness for the Ojai Valley as well. So they're really actively involved in that too. There are a lot of things that are being done, and yeah, it's true. We aren't beneath the dam, so that would be is a county issue.
Yeah, but good question.
Can I add one more?
Yes, Councilmember Haney.
You know, first of all, just you coming up and speaking makes more people aware of what could happen. So just you bringing it to the table, I agree with you. It's something that's been on my mind also. I attended that last El Nino meeting over at the Oakview Rec Center, Community Center. So I agree. We need to talk about it just so that we're publicly letting people know in our community to be prepared.
Right. I don't think we want to rely on FEMA, to dig us out. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Deborah Moe?
Yeah, they're turning it down. I mean, I might as well. Good evening. Last time I was here, I talked about the bus bench. And I was really shocked that people actually watch the city. I mean, I always watch the city council on TV, but I got a lot of phone calls about that. And I got a couple of phone calls from a couple of parents that have kids in Chaparral. And what goes on that bus bench is not good. So I wanted to see if Mr. Blatz had talked with the bus people, see what's up with that.
I did.
Okay. Also, I just want to commend every one of you for the emergency moratorium that you put on the books tonight. And I don't know why it was so hard, because there was an emergency 30-day moratorium put on for the fence wall thing, I do believe. And as I came in tonight, I nearly tripped over the 56-inch wall out front. I measured it. So I just wanted to, I'm being facetious, but.
It's historic.
It's historic, darn, it's historic. It doesn't matter, it's at City Hall. Okay. Anyway, I think that's really good that all of you stepped up. We care about this valley. I've lived here for nearly 30 years, and I know Alan's corner. I'm a dog walker, pet sitter, whatever. And also, I wanted to say about the street, what's that committee?
Complete Street?
Complete Street. People that work, having a meeting from 2 to 4 on a Wednesday, hello, there's a lot of meetings like that. They come in the middle of the day. It's not real conducive to people that work. So, although I'd love to be on something like that, and, I read up on all of that, but anyway, can you give me a little feedback so I can tell the people if the bus people said that there was any problem there or anything, Paul?
I brought it up at the board meeting last week and requested that the bus drivers take particular look and see what they could report back, and I'm having a meeting with them tomorrow.
Okay, because 2 mothers sat across at Seafresh and just watched all this activity. Their sons go to Chaparral, and she said, hey, my boys aren't angels, but to have the availability that's going on that bench is not a good thing. So.
And the bus drivers would only be able to report back. They don't have any control over what goes on there.
Right.
The benches are owned by the city.
Yeah, that's right. Also, they're meeting with Hank Bangser on that as well, because, that's school property, kind of, park and ride. Anyway.
I think we also have an update by Chief.
Yeah,
Chief
and I would
Kenny.
just encourage the mothers, if they do see activity, to call us so we can respond.
Well, they're on that bench.
Right, but if they see it right then and there.
Right.
They should call us. It's that simple.
I totally agree. So, thank you, and thank you for turning down the air.
Thank you, Deborah. Delaney?
Good evening. What a public session, huh? Delaney Ellis, been a resident here for about 30 years, and I also want to commend you on the emergency moratorium. Just take a breath until we figure out a more reasonable approach to dealing with this, because in general, I would just like to say that if it's a safety issue, reconsider that the way we do Ojai with trees in the middle of the street and not too many sidewalks and really wonderful mature landscaping and plantings all around are in their own biosphere like traffic calming by nature. So what it creates is a town where it isn't just like, oh, I got to go slow on this street. No, you have to go slow in this town. And the streets all tell you that. You don't need street signs to tell you that. The trees in the middle of the road give you a clue. I love the street sign that says, speed watch by radar. When you're coming Creek Road and there's a 90-degree left turn. And I always think, no, the speed is checked by the mountain that's sitting right in front of you. And that's sort of the way the whole city is. And so let's be reasonable and find a common sense to this. While I can understand that some people may want to have a law that is equal, one size fits all for everyone, that really isn't the way our town is constructed. And it seems to me that if there are properties that are a problem, let's work with those owners to find a way to mitigate that problem, rather than putting a blanket across everybody to destroy mature landscaping, which is something that we've all come to love. And we want a more walkable city. So when you're a homeowner and it's 100 degrees and you've got your windows open, you don't really want everybody walking by on the sidewalk to be seeing directly into your living room and bedroom. I live on Blanche. It's like a minor pedestrian highway, you know, all times of the day. So we don't have hedges, but we have mature landscape, and you know, it's a civilized way to live. So I would appreciate a well-measured, thought-out response to how we want to deal with these safety issues. Thanks.
Thank you. Patty?
Good evening. This has been quite an evening here for everyone, and I have another important issue that I'm bringing up, kind of following along after the report about the buck in the East End that was found. I came August 24th to speak to the City Council, and you agreed to include information and a recommendation on the City of Ojai's website, similar to the one that the City of Santa Barbara has, as far as recommending that people use organic methods and products whenever possible. And we're facing something here in Ojai that's really very disturbing for a lot of the people. I myself am a sensitive person, as many people are, and maybe they don't connect the dots. But I've had a rash after the spraying went on. I hear about the buck dying in the orchards. I hear from people that there are less bird songs being heard and less birds being seen. And so I'm just wondering what we can do as a city to really take a certain stand and an action to make something change. I know that the CDFA has a certain power that they can come in and spray certain areas, but not really, because people do have the option to opt out. There is information which I've given to you, each of you, to look at about the fact that what the CDFA and John Christ of the Farm Bureau are saying is not true. There are actual documented cases of reversing citrus greening, and so it's not a death sentence to the citrus industry unless they keep using the pesticides that are creating the problems with the trees. The trees are being weakened by these pesticides, and if they want to create a healthy citrus industry, they should have healthy citrus trees. So I'm just wanting to offer that information. I'm not making any money on any of the products that I'm quoting here as far as for the citrus greening disease, reversing the citrus greening disease. That is not my business. So I just want you to know I'm not making any money off of this. This has to do with actually wanting to see a healthy community, healthy soil, our air and our waters being affected, our pets and the wildlife, ourselves. So I want you to know that there's information on my website, our website, the transition-2-organics.org, that I want to share with everyone. You can look and find that Healthy Citrus Acres USA article that I posted with permission from Acres USA. It's a really important article for, I believe, the growers to actually look at. I was messaged on Facebook by Emily Ayala of Friends Ranch, and she was suggesting that I spread the word that people could cut down their citrus trees in the backyards if they're not tending them, if they look sickly and they're not worth anything, and I agreed to that. And I asked her to actually share that article with her fellow growers so that they can at least open their minds to something different other than pesticides, which are really detrimental to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joseph Gilbert.
I live in Miners Oaks, and the area where I live was originally included in the spray zone for the Asian citrus psyllid until I told him I didn't want him to spray there because it's organic and I didn't want to ruin the soil and kill the bees and all the other stuff that happens when you spray toxins around. And so then I called back a few days later and they said that I was just outside the spray area. I think they were trying to avoid any kind of confrontation or controversy. at first I was in it until I objected, then I was outside of it, and I got another letter from them that contradicted that. I don't think they know what they're doing. I think they're very incompetent, and I think they're working for Big Ag, and I don't think we should have to take the negative effects of what Big Ag thinks is good for their profits. We are not on their payroll, and we need to stand up against them. And I wonder if the city of Ojai has any legal recourse or any moral recourse, any way to assert themselves, to protect the people here from the machinations of the big deep pocket agriculture people. You know, I don't think we should be helpless and passive, you know, and just let them spray toxins all over the place. So I encourage you to look into that, to set a precedent, to make this as healthy of a place as possible. There was one other thing I wanted to say, but I forgot what it is. But anyway, that's the main thing. Thanks.
Joseph, I just want to say that we have been communicating with CDFA in regards to city limits and notification process, and but Miners Oaks is in the county area, so Supervisor Bennett's office would be the best.
I understand for my personal thing, but part of the area was in Ojai, and I think if Ojai took a leadership role, it would make it easier for other people to say, well, maybe we can do that also, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Doug Labar.
Doug Labar, South Blanche Street. First, I'd like to applaud the council for their actions that they took tonight. I'd like to address the issue of hedges in our town at the risk of sounding like a broken record. When I heard about the notices of violation from Alan and Denise's house, I drove around looking specifically to try to find what that was all about from the standpoint of safety. If I stopped at a limit line, I did. I came up to the limit line heading north on Ventura Street, right at their house, and I looked both ways. I could see clearly, and there wasn't any problem whatsoever. And I just can't imagine what is behind this kind of an ordinance. So I looked up the ordinance, and Section 10-2.805 of the Ojai Municipal Code, it deals with fences, walls, hedges, and screening. And as I read through it, I only found 2 other references to hedges. The rest of the 2 pages of the ordinance was mainly dealing with fences and walls and screenings. Actually, there were 3 words where it was using hedges. And so I started thinking about, well, what is the problem with a hedge? What's the difference between a hedge and just a plant? You could have a toyon or a ceanothus or a manzanita, and you let it grow. You don't trim it at all. It's a bush. But if you trim it and make it into a wall, then it becomes a hedge. So maybe that's the only thing that really needs to be changed, is the verbiage of the ordinance. I understand that when you have an ordinance, there's no point in having one if you're not going to enforce the rules. So what I'm suggesting is that the ordinance is not sacred. It needs to be changed. I live here because it's rural, and visitors come to Ojai because it's rural. They get out of the chaos of the big city. And if we're going to be changing that, we're going to be losing our visitors. Again, the ordinance is not sacred. Let's change the ordinance.
Thank you. Christine Gold.
Thank you. I, too, would like to applaud Betsy Clapp and Paul for the action that they took tonight about Hedgegate. And also, Betsy, you gave me a good lead-in when you talked about how things get all out of proportion on social media and so forth. And earlier in the week, I saw there were, a couple hundred threads following this whole shrubbery issue. And I got on there and I opined about this, that, and the other. And then at one point I said to myself, well, I'm not really sure I know what I'm talking about. I need to do a little more fact-finding. Who authorized those hedge letters to go out? How did that all happen? Because why are you sitting here at 9:15 at night still doing public comment? Wouldn't you like to avoid this in the future and have things work a little more smoothly? And I'm kind of like a process person, so I'm looking to see what was the process? How did this all start? Well, a lot of the threads seem to point the finger at the big old BAB, the Building Appeals Board. They did it, they did it, they did it. So I thought, well, I'm going to find out if that's so. So I thought, I have to watch a Building Appeals Board meeting. So I turned it on. Now, a side note, but it's really not a side note, I'm going somewhere with all of this, is I could not follow the BAB meeting at all. There were a lot of references to, well, what about this piece of paper or this little thing that we have over here? So I couldn't follow it. And I rewound it and I listened to it again, thinking, well, maybe it's me, and I'm a little elderly now and I'm not hearing so well, but I couldn't follow it. So I thought, aha, I'll pull up the BAB agenda and then I can follow along. And that's why I decided to speak to you tonight, because what I found on the BAB agenda, and it was much to my surprise, was not that they're advising you, but they're giving direction to staff. Right on their agenda, it says under hedges, shrubs, and whatever, provide staff with direction. In fact, 3 different places on that agenda, provide direction to staff. And I'm not speaking as an arts commissioner before you, but I'm going to reference that and say, we can't even appoint someone to get the Lifetime Achievement in the Arts Award without coming to you and having you approve that. And yet you have a board who can provide direction to staff without coming back to you. They were not voted. In fact, 2 of them were resoundingly defeated and not voted, but they're kind of doing their agenda on this board. And I think what I would ask you is to take a look at that and take a look at that process, because it could maybe be a quick fix. Do what you do for your commissions and your other boards. Not having them direct staff, but report back to you to give you advisement. So now it's in public at a city council meeting where those letters came from, who wrote them, what did they say, how were they addressed, what was the content, et cetera, et cetera. Because it seemed to me at the last meeting, you all really didn't know, and you should. So I don't come here in a hostile way at all. I applaud everything you do. I know how hard you work. And I hope that that's a little helpful for you to realize that maybe something is a little amiss there and a little out of control, and definitely something that you should be looking at, I think.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I do want to ask staff for clarification on direction. What do you mean when you put an item that says direct staff for this, direct staff for that? Are you asking them to advise or to direct staff to do an certain action or implement a certain policy? What are you asking DAB to do?
Yeah, so it really shouldn't be worded that way. So to the extent that it was worded that way, that was an error. But we don't take direction from the commissions and boards. They provide advice to the city council, and the city council provides the direction.
Mr. Summers?
The only thing I would add is that in some cases, the commission may give direction to staff to work up an item for the council to look at it. Classic example would be if a commission is at council's request or within its purview under the municipal code or otherwise. Some commissions are governed by state law as well. If the commission is looking at an ordinance, they'll review it, make their recommendations. They'll ask staff to take their comments, write it up, and then bring it to council. The key, though, is that no commission can take a final action on an ordinance or on a resolution. Only the council can take those actions after full and fair consideration at an open public meeting, and in the case of an ordinance, after 2 readings, at 2 meetings. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else wanting to speak? I don't have any more speakers cards. If not, then I am going to end the public comment section. I'm going to, and if I get support from my council members, I was thinking that we should probably try the oral reports from the council members right now rather than at the end. Anybody have any objections to that, or no? So we'll start with Councilmember Clapp. Any reports? No. Any comments? No. Councilmember Wyrick?
I would like to alert everyone, including the public, that on the television, to pay attention that the 7-Eleven committee has been appointed by the school board, which is going to be looking at what to do with the juxtaposition between the declining school enrollment and the number of facilities we have in the Ojai Valley and in our community. We have one member, just elementary schools. Mr. Quillisi is a member of the 7-Eleven committee. There's a group of, I think, 10 or 11 people, Mr. Quillisi? 10 people right now, and all I'm saying is it is an important issue for the community as a whole. I'm going to be paying attention to it. They're going to be welcoming input from the community, and I think everyone should pay attention because this is an important issue for us all as a community. Thank you.
Anything else? No. Councilmember Haney?
Last council meeting, I wasn't prepared to state that I'm on the ad hoc committee for cultural resources and the ad hoc committee for Libby Bowl. And I have nothing to report on those. And also the appointments that were made at the beginning of last year to all of the outside agencies, I was only given one, and that was with the animal control shelter. So, and we meet quarterly. So again, I don't have anything to report on that.
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz?
Yes, I have 2 comments, and then I have a report. My first comment is that it's almost 9:30, and we've just finished with public comment. And we heard multiple people, after we took an action, talk about the hedges. We're here to do the work of the city in terms of agendized items. And somehow, these public sessions and public input's very important, but they're getting longer, and they're getting longer, and they're getting longer. And I get a sense that we're going to be here at 25 after 10 some night and not having even gotten to an agenda item. And we got to do something about it. I don't know what it is. I can tell you that some cities will only take a half an hour of public comment at the beginning of the meeting, and then after they're done with the agenda, then they take all the rest of the public input. I hate to do that because that means people have to sit here to give their public comment. But we've got far more than an hour's worth of work to do tonight on our agenda items, and we're not going to get to them. So we've got to think about that as a council. The second thing is, I have no idea how the Building Appeals Board got talking about and dealing with issues of zoning. Hedges and walls and fences are zoning issues as far as I can recall. They don't have anything to do with the building code. So I don't know how they got that part of I don't remember ever giving them direction to talk about that stuff. So that's something that I would like to know about. Now, getting to my report, and I've got a brief report from being the chairman of the board of Gold Coast Transit. There's a few things that I think are really kind of interesting that we're beginning to work on. One of the things that we talked about during the board meeting was that we're talking about putting in a new seasonal route from the Ojai bike path and the Ventura River Trail, putting in a seasonal route, and in the surveys that were taken by all riders system-wide, number 5 on the list, and it was brought forward by 6% of the riders. Now, keep in mind that the number 1 happened to be 9% of the riders, but was to put a new seasonal route in to bring bicyclists into Ojai and then either pick them up in Ojai or have them ride down to Ventura on the bike trail. And to accomplish that, we're talking about actually having the purchase of new trailers for bicycles that'll hold up to 10 bicycles that'll be pulled behind the buses. And that would really, I think, enhance a lot of people coming to Ojai in the summertime. And they're getting a call for that. The other thing is that I thought that I'd bring up is we did a average daily ridership for the most utilized stops. And the stop that is at the Ojai Park and Ride ranks 13th, which is fairly high when in numbers of all the stops. And the average daily ridership at that one stop is 213 people. So that's a lot of people using the bus, I think. Now, granted, it's middle of the pack of many of the stops and nowhere near the size of the ridership where, for instance, 10 routes converge at the Oxnard Transportation Center where it's 2,600 riders, or at the Ventura Transportation Center where 5 routes come in 2248. But still, you look at Ojai, when you think about it, there's a lot of people riding our bus. And as I say to the employees during the board meetings, Gold Coast we have a social responsibility to provide transportation to those people that don't have ways of getting around. And I truly believe that Gold Coast and its employees take that responsibility very seriously. And they're constantly looking at new ways to streamline routes, to think of new ways of bringing things like this route to Ojai with a 10 bike trailer behind the bus, things like that. And really, there's not a meeting, the board meeting, that goes by when there aren't riders at the board meeting who come up and thank us. And these are people that rely on the bus service every single day of their life. And there's tons of them. And I just can't overemphasize how proud I am that this city is part of the support process for Gold Coast Transit, because I think it's money well spent.
Wow, that's a great report. Thank you. I'm going to do a quick comment, too. I support Mayor Pro Tem Blatt's comments about possibly thinking about public communication another way. I'm all about thinking outside the box and developing something on our website that's more interactive, that could be posted and everybody could post their issues and concerns on there, but always up to thinking other ways of taking public input with that, because it is a very important segment in our agenda, but it is getting very late. Second comment is I think that we're doing a lot this year. We've opening up a lot of issues that we have just kicked down the road, and there's a lot of activity happening from council level to all our commissions and board to subcommittees to ad hocs. So we're generating a lot of information out there, and sometimes it's being skewed if somebody says something. So I think it's important for us to show leadership to somehow correct the misinformation that's going out there, because a lot of it is being misconstructed. So I just want to make those comments as just an observation. The only thing I have to report on in terms of it, I attended the drought, the task force put by the governor's office. He had a couple of staff members coming with all the water purveyors, all the board members from different groundwater agency, all the mayors, all the supervisors in the county to talk about the issue with water. And there was a lot of talk about storage, planning for the future. There's a lot of talk about how they could develop a policy that's more understandable in terms of when they're trying to implement other ways of conserving waterfall, what procedures they could run, because a lot of times they're being told one thing, they have to do one thing, and then they go to a different agency in the state and they have to do another thing, and the Coastal Commission tells them to do something different. So it's all of this issue. It's happening in the state level too. It's just not happening in Ojai. So a lot of those policies haven't been implemented. Now that we're in drought, we're trying to put something, or state governor is trying to put something in place to have a better system, a better process. Another thing that they talked about, desalination plant. There was a variety of issues that came up during that discussion. But one thing I do want to know is that Ojai got kudos because our groundwater management agency has been on top and has been a model here in the state of California. So we did want to recognize that because it is, we do have just an agency that is way beyond its years, and whoever implemented that agency knew what was coming down the pipeline. So we're really blessed to have OBGMA, in my opinion. Yes, we're way ahead of the game. Other than that, that's my report on different committees. I'm going to go to the consent calendar. Anybody wishing to pull an item from the consent calendar? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Clapp. Yes. Wyrick.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
Blatz.
Yes.
Lahr.
Yes. I did have a request to move item number 6 up to number 2. Anybody have any objections to that?
No objection.
No objection. Discussion of law enforcement activity related to the Shangri-La
Resolution
Care
stack.
competitive and cooperative in consideration of sending a formal request for a release of information by the Ventura County Sheriff Office. Can I have a report on that?
So I think I'll let the city attorney give you a brief overview of the resolution he's drafted for your consideration.
Okay.
And this is the resolution that was put on the dais tonight, and I believe was also put out on the public table.
Yes.
And it's just 2 pages. In short, as you'll recall from the discussion at the last meeting, the Shangri-La Care Cooperative on Bryant Street was subject to a search warrant and a law enforcement raid on October 6th. And to date, the Ventura County Sheriff's Office has not provided a copy of the search warrant and, most importantly, the affidavit that supported probable cause to secure the search warrant, which would have explained the reasoning and the basis behind securing a search warrant. The resolution before you tonight would be a request by the mayor to the Ventura County Sheriff's Office and to the Ventura County Superior Court, asking for a copy of the warrant and the supporting affidavit providing probable cause. Penal Code Section 1534, Subdivision A, provides, in short, that a search warrant and its supporting documents are a public record after the warrant is executed and returned and a 10-day period has expired. I've learned subsequent to drafting this resolution that the warrant has been ordered sealed by a court. I have not seen a copy of that court order, however. So we would expect that the first response to this letter would be, at the minimum, a statement that it's been sealed, at the most, a copy of the sealing order. I would expect, in particular, the court should be able to give us a copy of the sealing order. Then the decision would be for the council, if it wanted to have my office or another lawyer make a motion to lift the seal order, which would be incur some cost. My recommendation would be, if the council so chooses, to consider adopting this resolution before you tonight, to ask for a copy of the warrant. It's possible the sheriff of the county may release it, and if not, release it, at least provide a copy of the sealing order, then to consider at a later date seeking to make a motion to lift the seal order. I would expect, in most cases, warrants are sealed in order to protect confidential informants and to ensure that an ongoing investigation can continue, and judges tend to be loath to lift those orders, unfortunately. I'm available for any further questions.
Any questions for staff or for Mr. Summers?
Yes.
Councilmember Clapp?
Captain Kinney, what is your take on this?
On this order, I would be surprised if the sheriff's department. Well, first of all, the sheriff's department can't unseal the warrant. The judge has to. Okay, and I would be doubtful if that would occur.
Another question. Is this, have you ever seen anything like this presented to a court?
No, I have not.
So it's a bit unusual?
Coming from council, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wyrick?
I don't have any questions. I guess the regular rule of order would to see if there's some public comment and then entertain a motion.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
if there's any initial comment, then go to the public.
No, I think it's self-explanatory. I just see if we hear from anybody from the public wants to express themselves, and then I'm
All right.
prepared to.
Anybody from the public wanting to wish to speak on this item? If you could please state your name for the record.
My name is Jeff Kroll. I am the president of Shangri-La Care Cooperative. And I can assure everyone at this council member that we have done nothing wrong, none of the members or any of the people involved with Shangri-La. I am just as surprised as you are with this seal that was done on the warrant that was served on me on October 6th. I am really curious as to why this action has been taken against myself, the members of our group, and the people who support Shangri-La throughout the community. It has been a nightmare since October 6th trying to help and aid our concerned members about the privacy of their records, the medical records, the notes, and I want to get to the bottom of this. I mean, that's the truth. And I think you owe it to me as a business owner to make sure that this type of action, it's called, as we've discussed before, a knock warrant. This is something I asked to see. I was refused this document and repeatedly said I would be more than happy and compliant with any and all questions. We have, for over 6 years, been as compliant and as state authorized as possible. We have made every little baby step that we've had in our 6 years of operation, waiting for the day when the public and authorities who we've offered to work with the sheriff's department, the fire department, and other agencies to really form a cohesive, common sense approach to this very difficult subject. But I am not very pleased or happy about the way this has been handled. We are going to be having a voter member meeting, as many of you know. We have 99 voting shares in our group. We will be presenting our options. Part of this is the affidavit and also the report that the officers prepared for the judge. I've never in my career in working with federal Department of Justice ever had a situation like this before me when I was under contract with the Department of Justice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? No. Thank you.
Have you
Councilmember Wyrick?
been made privy to the order sealing the warrant?
Mr. Kroll,
Have you requested?
there is a question.
My understanding is that the order, an order sealing a warrant is a public record. Have you seen the order sealing the warrant?
No, we have not. We've actually asked for it when it was sealed on late October 16th, which was a late Friday afternoon. We have been asking for over a week, and that has not been presented
I'm
as
talking about
yet.
the order itself.
The actual seal order.
The actual order seal. the seal
Not,
order.
yeah, we've not,
Thank you.
our attorney's been asking for it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, if you could please state your name.
Sue Williamson, and I live in Ojai. I'm sort of hesitant to say anything about this. I've been talking to the Captain Roush, or whatever his name is, trying to get to the bottom of it and find out what are they up to. And I think the only thing I can really figure out is that if you look at the new laws that are passed by Brown, they are going to be setting up a huge bureaucracy of where every step along the way has to be licensed and fees and permits and the state, my theory is this: they're trying to wipe out the small people for the big corporations to step in and take over this business. And I think that's what's happening here. I think the police are being used to do that. And they're trying to get any little thing, and they're on a fishing expedition to find any little tiny thing they can find to get rid of these people that are been doing all the work for all these years and helping people. So that's the only sense I can make of it. And I just hope that you will proceed and do whatever you can to help out our local people who have been working so hard to help people with this. So,
thank you. Anybody else? If not, then I'm going to turn it back to council for further questions. Any comments?
I just have a question, if anybody knows. Has anybody been arrested?
No.
Okay.
I would like to go, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the resolution, so we, as I see if there's a second, and then we have it open for discussion. And the reason I'm going to make the motion, I'm supposed to, I'm going to talk about it for a bit and then make the motion. Hundreds of people, as I stated in the last meeting, have had their medical care disrupted, and they don't know why. It's really basic to our form of government, that people understand probable cause, understand what supports actions like this. What's unfortunate is there may well be good reasons. We do not know. That's the point. We do know that hundreds of people have had their medical care disrupted in this valley, and that's a serious issue. And I think we have a moral obligation to at least be on record that these hundreds of people are due an explanation. And that if we could ask that in the most respectful but nevertheless direct fashion, we're not demanding, but we're requesting. I had a talk with both Captain Washweiler, myself, and Steve Bennett about this, and it's clear one of the problems is the lack of release of probable cause and the affidavit supporting it, for whatever reason it is being done, has created a vacuum for people to think the worst, when it may be, absolutely not the case. But I do think that it is appropriate for us. We contract with the Sheriff's Department. We're the ones that contract for those services. And I think it's appropriate for us to give our sense, that's all it is, that the sooner, as soon as possible, to give these hundreds of people who've had their medical care disrupted an explanation. And that would be by having the warrant and the affidavits be made part of the judicial record. So I'm going to so move.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions on it. I guess that the first thing is that we're asking that the warrant and the probable cause affidavit be released to the public. Is that what we're asking for, Mr. Summers?
Yes, that's how it's presently drafted.
So we're not just asking that it be released to the city?
Correct.
Okay. And with the assumption that if it's sealed, and I'm not sure who this is, we're sending this to the Superior Court and to the Sheriff's Department?
And I would expect that the letter that if this is adopted, I draft for the mayor would be one to the clerk of the Superior Court, who holds the records, officially at least, and two to the sheriff.
So I look at this as merely going on record that we believe it should be released. I don't think it's going to do anything to get it released, but I think that if we go on the record, that it should be released. The part that is missing from this is the second part, and that is the city willing to spend money to go to court to seek redress and have the records released. And I don't know whether we want to cover that in the same motion or not.
That's not part of my motion, no. I think that's premature. I think that we do this first and see. And then we wait. I think it's important to make a statement and then have some time to see what transpires.
Mr.
Okay.
Any more comments, Mayor Pro Tem Blatz?
No.
No. Councilmember Wyrick, Councilmember Clapp, sorry.
I think one of the things taking a lot of time on this council is getting involved with matters that we have no jurisdiction over. And this is an example of that. I have no opinion one way or the other about medical marijuana, its validity, whether marijuana should be legal or not. I have my personal opinion, but I don't think it's really the important. What's important is getting involved in something, no matter what it is, that we have no jurisdiction over. It's currently in the hands of the Ventura County Sheriff. It's going to go through the courts, and that's where it belongs. And we're taking taxpayer dollars to do something that really is not of, we have any say in. It's purely symbolic, and I would like to see our staff that is overburdened with a tremendous amount of work that we put on them through the years, through this last year, to be taking their time to take care of matters that are within our jurisdiction. So I will be voting no on this because I think it's not appropriate for us to intervene in our courts of law. It's where it belongs now, and it will work its way through the courts. And if somebody wants to be involved in that process, they can be involved in that process. But we're not part of that process, so I don't want to get involved.
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz?
Yeah, I personally think that these documents should be released, but this isn't going to do it.
No, it's not.
I mean, if we really want to get it released, we have to step up to the plate and be willing to put our money into going to court to try to get it released. And even then, it's questionable because the penal code is clear that things like this aren't going to be released, and they're only sealed if there's an ongoing investigation. And there are issues with regard to the information within the affidavit that would somehow interfere with that investigation. So I don't even see the point of us doing this. Sure, it's symbolic, it's nice to say, probably doesn't hurt anything, but I'm not going to vote for this because I think we're wasting our time. If somebody wants to make a motion that we consider actually retaining counsel to go to court to file a motion, then I would be for it. But to me, it's like saying, we were here and we want something, and it's just not going to go anywhere.
I personally, and I understand Councilmember Clapp and Mayor Pro Tem Blatt's point of view, but I understand that this is probably not going to do anything. Clearly understand, but it will at least make the sheriff's department that we are involved with the community, and there is some concern whether they have the right or not. I think as a symbolic point, as a symbol, I think it is important to get involved in this situation, and whether we're going to have an impact or not. I know it's rarely done, but at the same time, there's good reason. I think there's good reason to do it. And we heard our constituents come and voice their opinion, and I think that as a council member, as an elected official, it is important to communicate with other agency in whichever way possible. We're not asking anything bad, I think. We're just asking release of affidavits and the warrant. And whether it be sealed or not, I think it just in process, it just makes a statement to the Superior Court that we do care about our community, and we do want we take care of him. And that's my point of view. I think that there's value in this.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Clapp, and then I'll go to Councilmember Wyrick.
Why do we want to spend taxpayer dollars getting involved in something that is not our business? And it's inappropriate for us to intervene into, there's a respect between bodies, and that respect needs to be honored.
And I don't think
the sheriff doesn't come in here and tell us what to do or demand that we do things.
No, I think there's cooperation.
And I think, this is
And I don't think
not
this
our
is
matter. This is
disrespectful.
not our matter.
think it's
Why
more
do
of
we want to waste
cooperation.
staff time and money on something like this? It's
yeah.
inappropriate intervention on our part.
I personally
It's
don't think
it's
we're
at the-
wasting time.
Yes, we are. We are absolutely wasting our staff's time, and we've got to stop doing that.
Councilmember Wyrick?
I respect the hundreds of people who've had their medical care
They
disrupted.
can go
And
down
they-
to LA and get their stuff.
Councilman Clapp, Councilperson Clapp, that is out of order to
How
interrupt
no?
me when I am speaking.
Yes, I do know.
Councilperson?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so
Clapp,
let's let
you're out of order
Councilmember
in terms
Wyrick
of my
finish his
statement.
statement.
So I have respect for the hundreds of people who in the valley have had their medical care disrupted, and that's what makes this an unusual situation. It is, yes, unusual for such a motion to be made. It's also very unusual for that many people in the valley to have their medical care disrupted. Medical marijuana is absolutely scientifically valid as medical care. That's beyond question, and this is a medical marijuana state. My point is that I think it's appropriate, because it's an unusual situation, to be on record as saying we think there should be some explanation as soon as can be provided. And for that reason, I'm calling the question.
Any other comments, or I'm going to ask for a roll call?
I just want to,
Councilmember Haney?
I just want to add something simple to the debate, that I'm willing to spend $185, which is an hour of your time, to do this. So, let's do it.
Roll call?
Clapp.
No.
Wyrick.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
Blatz.
No.
Lar.
Yes. We're going to go back to item number 2. It's a public hearing, the tree ordinance, introduce an ordinance approving text amendment TA 1511, modifying the requirements related to preservation, cutting and removal of oak, sycamore, heritage, and other designated mature trees. And I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. First of all, after this report came out, the tree committee met and made some additional recommendations, which I think have merit. So our ultimate recommendation today is that this matter be continued to the November 24th meeting so that we have time to work with the tree committee. So you could just do that now, or if you want, I can give the report and you can take input.
Anybody have any questions or inputs?
Yes, I would suggest that we do continue it. But I also, opportunity for, I know I have a comment about the ordinance. I think maybe another council person does as well.
And we'll see if the public
Yeah.
has any comments.
Yeah, but take comments and then, go on.
Since you have the floor, do you want to make your comment?
Sure, I'll make my comments if that's in order.
Yes.
There's an internal inconsistency with the existing ordinance. That's why I asked for the full Chapter 11 of Title 4 to be provided. Notice that in the scope, it states the provision of this chapter shall apply to all oak, sycamore, heritage, and designated mature trees. Elsewhere in this ordinance, the word designated mature, that phrase designated mature tree, is not continued consistently. Therefore, you have references to mature trees, and this ordinance would also apply in terms of mitigation or the application of arborist reports for any mature tree. Notice on page 2 of 7, mature trees shall mean any tree species equal to or greater than 12 inches in diameter. That can mean trash trees.
Excuse me, page 2 or 3?
Page, the second page,
Oh, I see. I thought-
the
I
definitions
thought it was
of the
a
ord.
double-sided document.
I'm sorry, I have a single-sided, I'm sorry.
Okay,
My mistake.
all right.
I did my own printout. So I would suggest that the staff consider a sense and see what other council people feel about this, that we render this internally consistent. by two things I'm going to suggest. One is every instance of the term mature tree has the phrase designated, the word designated put in front of it, that the definition of designated mature tree be put into the ordinance, where it reads, the phrase would mean designated mature tree shall mean any tree species so designated by council resolution and equal to or greater than 12 inches in diameter, et cetera. I think that way, by resolution, we could specify the trees that are designated. We can, it would be adaptable as time goes on. It could include the tree committee input, but it would really, I think, fix some severe unintended consequences of the way it's written.
Any other comments?
I too have the
Councilmember
same-
Haney?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I had the same opinion regarding the term designated mature trees and the fact that it's not used uniformly throughout this ordinance. Yeah, so that's my biggest concern. And then the other thing too is the fact that I'd really like to see a list of these designated trees. You know, I understand heritage oaks and heritage sycamores, and there's probably a couple other trees that are very, very important to the valley. But one of the issues that I saw recently was Washingtonia robusta, the fan palm, that we had a big debate over how to, you know, why not to take it down, or to take it down and to have a permit to take it down, and it just didn't make sense.
Or pay a mitigation fee to take it down.
Right. So that's why we need a little more time to look at this, and so I'm for, as Mr. Clark says, putting it off into the next agenda.
I just have a question. Why is the word mature in it? Why isn't it just designated trees? Why does it have to, if we're going to designate a tree as needing protection, why does it have to be a mature tree?
That's a good question. It actually describes what kind of tree is intended in terms of size, so
But
mature
why?
is sort of redundant.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say designated the way the scope is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, they were going to say by size of the trunk, but I just think I think that we ought to define designate and other designated trees and
absolutely
and leave it at that.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments from council?
Yeah, one more quick
Councilmember
one.
Clapp?
I watched the planning commission meeting where somebody came and wanted to get a permit to cut down an oak tree. And the tree report, arborist report, said it wasn't a hazardous tree, so it didn't qualify for being cut down. And during the course of the conversation, they were told to come back when they got an arborist report that says it was hazardous, which almost was direction to arborist shop to get what they wanted. So I don't know how you can protect from arborist shopping. Maybe the arborist has to be independent from the person that's going to be cut down the tree, so that there's not a conflict of interest there. Somehow, we've got to eliminate a conflict of interest between the arborist report and who's going to be cutting down the tree.
Well, who
And the applicant.
reviews the arborist reports for the city?
It's the Community Development Department's responsibility. They'll often seek advice from the tree committee, and sometimes we get a second opinion. I guess the other way to go, if you really want an independent tree report, is to have the applicant pay for a report ordered by the city.
Right.
So we can look at those.
Because you can't be having people shopping for the.
You're right.
And I'd add that.
Say it's hazardous when it's really not.
I would just add that in some of my other cities, they have every arborist report that hits a public hearing level permit go through a second opinion for a city arborist, and that can be a successful kind of check.
That isn't chosen by the applicant.
Yeah, it's
independent.
In that case, that city has an arborist on staff. Here, we would have a contract arborist, but the same thing. The city, it has its stable of arborists, selects the arborist, looks at the project, hands them the reports, et cetera. The fee, of course, is paid by the applicant, but it's not, the arborist isn't picked by the applicant. It's picked by the city.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to handle it.
Yeah, when there's a threshold met.
Yeah.
I just want to mirror the comments that was already mentioned about the mature trees. I had some issues with that too, because I felt like that picked up just species that were invasive. That was my issue. So I'm glad that Councilmember Wyber and Councilmember Haney brought that up. But that's it. Other than that, I'll take comments from the public. Anybody wishing to, I'm going to open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this item? Yes. If you could please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve Quilici, West Eucalyptus Street in the city. If you change the wording of this to simply say designated trees, there needs to be some wording that lets the general public understand who's doing the designating. So please include that in whatever you do.
I'm going to suggest that it be done by resolution of council with appropriate input invited, by council. And with that, I'm going to move continuance.
Second.
Well, I'm going to ask anybody from the public if they have anything else, and then we'll take a
Didn't
motion
see
for
another hand there,
continuance.
sorry.
Anybody else wanting to speak on this item? If not, then I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
Move continuance.
Are we leaving the public hearing open, or are we going to close the public?
I would recommend that we can close it and reopen it. And I'd note further that as this is not part of the zoning code, there is no formal requirement under state law to have a public hearing, although that doesn't preclude treating it as such.
All right, I second it.
And we recommended specifically November 24th.
Okay, great. With that, then I will move on to the next item.
We don't need a vote.
Oh, do we need a roll call?
Clap.
I'm not
Continue.
happy with the November 24th meeting.
Oh.
Well,
Well, you could.
I'm
you
not
could-
either, but I
We could,
I
we
want
could.
this motion to,
We could move it, we could move it to the 10th then, if you want, just December 10th.
I already have plans.
December or November 10th?
December
November
10th.
December 8th.
December 8th. There's not enough time to prepare for the next meeting, so it needs to be at least 2 meetings down, but it could be 3 meetings down.
That would work better for me because I only have plane tickets.
Okay.
December 8th. Would you,
If we amend the motion.
amend the motion?
Let's not put a date in the motion.
There was no date in the motion, just tabling it.
Okay.
Okay. Roll
Okay,
call.
so, Clap,
Yes.
Wyrick,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
Blatz.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes. Discussion item number 3, requests for proposal, building inspection, plan check, and code enforcement services. I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you. Ms. Wold will be making this report.
Good evening. So I think we've been here before on this. I'm not sure. It's been a while now. I think I gave the report, but I'll reiterate for your benefit. So we periodically go out for an RFP when we have our contract services. And as you know, building inspection, plan check, right now is a contracted service for the city of Ojai. So before you tonight is sort of a draft RFP, open to any suggestions or clarifications or modifications as you would direct staff. And just a brief overview staff report, just giving you an idea of why we do this periodically, what we're hoping to accomplish, including competitive rates. I would say that this item's been continued a number of times, so when we're issuing the RFP and all those dates that were in there are all going to be wrong, and I've changed them, and then I kind of just gave up, thought, well, I'll wait till you guys actually hear it, and then I'll change it at your direction. So I do know that's an error, and I am willing to change that and whatever you think is appropriate for it to be issued. And with that, I'm open to any questions you might have regarding the RFP.
Any questions for staff? Councilmember Haney?
Well, I don't have any questions, but Kathleen, I would prefer that we continue this again. And the reason that I'm suggesting that is we've just have a contract with the Community Development Operations Assessment Group, and I'd like to get their input and their assessment of the planning department before we actually have a lot of people respond to this RFP, and then us have to send additional letters out asking for more response. That's all.
Well, obviously, I knew that was probably coming down the pike, but I was just going to wait for it.
Okay.
And I concur. I mean, I think that we're looking at, we don't know what we're going to get, but it is a performance audit. It might include structural recommendations. We don't know, but we certainly don't want to presuppose, and it seems only wise to continue this until the audit is received and digested by council.
I do have one other question, though, is, I know that, that we're short, or we're down a planner, or we're in need of a planner, and we're out right now looking for one. Is there any way that the services that are being provided now can staff additional people to help us out right now?
In regards to planning?
Yes.
We've made inquiries to almost every agency providing contract planning staff. In fact, when I went to the planning conference a couple weeks ago, I asked up there, and they just aren't available in this region. For whatever reason, what was said to me is there are planners with like my years of experience, and there are brand-new planners, 1 or 2 years. But from the 10 to 15-year experience of what we're looking for, they're just not out there. Explained to me that occurred as an outcome of the recession. People that were in planning during the recession and they cut staffing, those people chose, if they were only in the profession for 5 to some whatever years, they chose to go back, get a master's in something else, and left the profession. So it's just, that's why Rob decided to go out and try to pursue it as a regular employee. And so I don't know what else I've asked, and I think almost everyone, the only suggestion that I was left with was, well, you should try Rincon, and that's where we were back with the Rincon associates. That's the only people I haven't done outreach to.
That was my concern, Councilmember Haney, whether we're still going to be needing that extra planner. It's a logical step to take, in my opinion. I think whether to wait because of this audit that we're performing on this department, but at the same time, if we're in dire need,
I don't think anyone, we're suggesting that be precluded.
Yeah.
Trying to find some.
Yeah.
So the filing period closed on that, and we did get a number of applications which we're in the process of reviewing, and we'll be conducting interviews and so forth. And as I said before, we will only hire if we find a well-qualified individual. But if we do, I think we should.
Okay. So, are we then tabling this RFP? Or
So,
are we?
so we'll just put this on hold. The schedule for the review of the department is primarily, the field work's going to be done at the end of November and beginning of December, November 30th through December 3rd. So we've already started setting appointments for the council members to be interviewed. And then the final report will obviously come after December, so in one of the January meetings.
Okay. Any other comments from council member? No, I'm going to turn it to public. Any comment from anybody in the audience on this item? Yes.
Yeah, Sue Williamson. I don't know what is going on in the code enforcement and the situation here, but I have just found out that for a very minor little thing, it's already taken 2 weeks. Now it's going to take, I was told they legally can have 4 to 8 weeks to issue a permit. And what I've seen is that from a minor little thing, it's turned in from from a molehill has been made into a mountain. And it seems to me the enforcement department, if they, were not sort of creating more and more work for themselves, they wouldn't be in the situation they're in. I can't believe what they're putting us through over nothing, and it's taking forever. So I really urge you to do something. It's crazy. I just can't believe what's going on there. So it's very frustrating, and
we agree with you there. It's overwhelming. I think our department is, and that's why we're actually auditing the department from independent contractor service to see if they could give us any suggestions on how to improve or make it better.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing.
Great.
So.
Well, thank you. Hope you're successful.
Anybody else? No, then I'll turn it back to council. If anybody motion to table.
Continue or table?
Table for now.
I can move to table.
A second.
Roll call.
Clapp?
Yes.
Wyrick?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Blatz?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes. Next item, options to provide short-term and long-term disability coverage to full-time city employees. Continue from October 13th. I'll turn it over to staff.
Mr. McCleary will be making this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Clark, Mr. Summers, Chief Kenny, Clerk Basor, and I think I got everybody out of the way. So this is a follow-up to an item that was discussed by the City Council back under the discussions for the fiscal year 15-16 budget. And at the time, the City Council said that they were willing to at least put some money aside to consider funding a long-term disability, short-term disability benefit for the employees, but they were not ready to commit at that time and asked staff to come back with some further information and some options for the council to consider, and that is the purpose of this report. Very quickly, I should take a moment to explain that the city does not participate in the state disability insurance program, which is commonly referred to as SDI. Most people who are employed by a private employer participate in the state disability insurance program, which is an employee-funded program, obviously run through the state of California. The city, being a government entity, is not required to participate in state SDI. The city could voluntarily elect to provide SDI coverage to its employees. This election can be made either at the City Council's choice or response to a petition from a majority of employees. Staff is not recommending that we go the route of funding and participating in the state disability program at this time. We did go out and talk to a couple of different brokers and obtained a number of quotes for both short-term disability coverage and long-term disability coverage. Real quickly, just for the council's knowledge and also for the folks at home, short-term disability coverage begins from the 8th day of an illness disability up to 12 or 13 weeks of maximum coverage, and generally you get up to a replacement of 60% of your income to a maximum of $1,000 per week. Long-term disability picks up when the short-term disability ends, and so normally there's a 90-day waiting period before the long-term disability can kick in. And then that continues. As I mentioned, we did get quotes from a couple of different brokers, including Chambron and Associates, who is our local broker, and also through Colonial Insurance, which provides one of our voluntary benefit programs. The most competitive quote that we received came from Chambron, and it was from Lincoln. The monthly cost to provide that benefit for both the short term and the long term is quoted at $898 per month, which is $10,779 per year. Staff's review of the quotes that provided, we believe that Lincoln is the better cost option to go for both combined short and long-term disability package. The quotes that are provided through Lincoln are guaranteed with a November 1st issue date, so we do have these rates locked in until then. I'm sure we could get a new rate if we needed to go beyond that date. The quoted rates also come with a 2-year rate guarantee. Also wanted to mention that on the dais, staff provided an addendum to the staff report. Wanted to provide a little clarity to that. The information that we gave in the staff report on the coverage for the council members was not accurate. We got a little further clarification from the broker today on that. So in order to cover council members under the long-term disability or short-term disability, we would first need to get the underwriter's approval, and we do not have that at this time. We did not understand that when we originally put the quote together, so I apologize for not making that clear in the staff report or prior to tonight. Broker ran the quote to cover employees basically working full-time over 30 hours a week, and the broker indicated that Lincoln's not likely to go down to 20 or 24 hours a week for a part-time employee. And of course, it's difficult to actually quantify the hours that the council members work. I know you put in a lot of hours there, but it's difficult for the broker to actually quantify that. However, if council did want to go forward with that option, we'd be more than happy to check with the broker and see if we could get underwriting approval. We also specifically got the quote on that. It would be $15 per council member per month, and that works out to a total of $900 per year. But the bigger issue would be if we could even obtain underwriter approval to be able to include the council members. So that option is before you. Apologize we didn't make that clear in the initial staff report. So basically staff's recommendation is to authorize the city manager to obtain short-term and long-term disability insurance for the city's full-time employees via our broker, Shamrod and Associates, through Lincoln at the quoted rate of 29 cents per $10 of benefit for short-term and 23 cents per $10 of weekly benefit for that's for the long-term. I found another error. So it's $29 cents per $10 benefit for short-term, 23 cents per $20 weekly benefit for the long-term. Must have read that 3 times. Be happy to answer any questions if there's anything I didn't cover.
Mention a 2-year rate lock-in. How much are we locking in? So they're guaranteeing the rates for 2 years.
Right.
You're recommending the $898.30 option per month.
Correct.
To cover all the employees outside of council.
That's correct.
And what is the cancellation if this blows up in future years for the city? Is this the annual contract?
It's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, and so I don't want to take a guess. I never got the impression that we were locked in for 2 years, only that there was a 2-year rate guarantee.
What obligation long-term beyond the annual budget cycle?
I do not believe we would be locking in anything beyond 1 year, but I would want to clarify that.
Okay. And also, I'm just going to go on the record, I'm a little out of school here, but the council should just be carved out of this. I agree.
Any other comments from council regards? I'm going to turn it over and see if anybody from the public wants to speak on this item. Anybody from the public? No? I'll turn it back to council. Any comments or motions?
I'm going to make a motion to approve it as written, which does not include the council, and on the condition that it is a annual contract.
Second.
Roll call?
Clapp.
Yes.
Wyrick.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
Blatz.
Yes.
Lar.
Yes. Item number 5, cancellation of upcoming regular city council meetings. Anybody have any preference?
I have a comment.
Yes, on the cancellation?
Yes.
Okay.
I, too, was planning on going to see my family leaving before the 24th of November. I know Councilman Clapp has already indicated she's got plane tickets. I know we have a lot of business to do. I don't know what the options are.
I have an idea.
Please.
Councilmember Clapp?
Why don't we meet instead of the let me get the calendar, instead of the 24th on the 17th?
I think I could do that. Anybody want it?
I'm open.
I'm fine for that.
November 17th is a Tuesday.
Yes.
So we'd have a meeting November 10th, and a week from that, another meeting.
Let's get some business done.
Any other council member, any input on that?
Well, the only thing I can say is I was disappointed over the summer that we lost so many meeting dates. So I was not going to vote to change the 24th, but I will agree to the 17th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got one. Does anybody want a motion, or if we don't want to cancel 2 meetings in December, do we want to meet a week prior to that, or is 1 meeting sufficient? And we do we have to make a decision on that now, or could we?
Should.
So, as it stands right now, we had things scheduled for November 24th, but we can push those back to the 17th, but we don't have anything scheduled for December 22nd. So it really depends on whether we get through all the things that we have scheduled in those other meetings.
We did today.
Yeah.
Where you-
Well, nothing would preclude us from meetings in November from scheduling in December another meeting if we had to.
Yes.
So why don't we, I'm
exactly.
going to make a motion then that we cancel December 22nd and reschedule November 24th to November 17th.
Great.
I second.
Roll call?
Clap? Wyrick?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Blatt?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Steve, you're still there.
Well, actually, and I'm sorry, I actually have a clarifying comment. Normally, this has been adopted by resolution. Does the motion need to reflect that?
Yes.
It's late.
I don't think it has to be done by resolution. It would probably be best to do it just to confirm it, so we could always bring one back, put it on the consent calendar next month.
No, there's a resolution in the packet. It
Yeah,
just- Does
yes.
the motion have to say,
Yeah, the recommendation was to adopt a resolution determining
Does
the
he
regular
need to
meeting
change his
dates to be
motion?
canceled.
I stand corrected. I would think that the motion to cancel the dates, cancel the one date and move the other date.
No, this is on
No,
the,
this is on
This is on
item.
the,
This is on
disability.
Steve's, this is on
Option to
Steve's
provide
disability.
short-term and long-term
The thing we already
disability coverage.
passed.
Right.
This is item number 4.
Trying to move fast here.
We were wondering why you didn't leave.
Or item.
No. We're on the cancellation item.
yeah, we're on item 5.
You just bypassed my staff report, which I was more than happy to allow you to
Oh,
do.
we are on 5. We are on 5?
Okay, we are.
We are on the cancellation of upcoming regular city council
Okay.
meetings. And my question was simply whether or not that action needed to be done by adoption of a resolution.
You're right, I was wrong.
As we've done previously.
Okay.
You were right, Mr. Summers.
It is on item 5, which there is a resolution. It's page 1 of 1, attachment A.
It's amended.
All right, well, why don't I?
It's already on your dais.
I'm going to make, can we just vacate the previous motion? I'm going to make another motion
That works.
to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ojai of California canceling the December 22nd regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Ojai, and changing November 24th regular meeting to November 17th.
And I'll second that again.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Get well, Steve.
Okay, we're
Go
going
home.
to be, we got redevelopment.
Yeah, so we're gonna take a break from council meeting and convene as a Ojai Redevelopment Successor Agency. Anybody have any comments on consent calendar, or I'll entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Clap? Wyrick?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Blatt?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes, I'll end as the Ojai Redevelopment Successor Agency and reconvene as the City Council. Any oral reports from City Manager?
Yeah, we are actually looking at dates for the neighborhood planning meeting, and one of the dates that we were looking at was November 21st, but you guys may have scheduled time out of town then. So just input from the council as to whether that would be an appropriate date or not.
What date?
November 21st.
You know, I think that that's not really good for the citizens.
No,
Okay,
no.
so we'll probably,
Holiday.
Is it early December?
we can look at dates in early December.
Early December, yeah.
That's all I have.
Any reports from City Attorney?
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Chief? No. Our City Clerk?
Nothing.
No? Then we'll be moving to closed session items. The first one will be conference with the real estate property negotiator. Property address APN 0210043317 and APN 0210043318. Agency negotiator Robert Clark, city manager, under negotiation price in terms of payment. Conference, their second item will be conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation, government code 5495.6.9, subsection D of 4. Number of potential cases, 1. And our last item is the city attorney evaluation. Any reports from any of those items?
None expected.
Okay. With that, then we'll move into our closed session. Thank you, guys.
How about that?